coaching staff, you just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman, presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Chase McCabe, David Beauclair in for Jared today. Jared out the rest of the week, so I'll be hanging out with you in the afternoons on until 5 o'clock today when the Predators take on the Boston Bruins tonight. Max Hers will have pregame for you. David, thanks for doing this. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Chase? Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's good to be here, and doing okay. Obviously, a lot going on in our city, and yesterday was an extremely tough day, and we still want to recognize that. And even though we're talking sports and trying to provide that escape for our listeners, we also want to provide a sounding board for people to express their thoughts. Not trying to get political or anything. That's not what I mean, but certainly a lot of thoughts that people have with the tragedy that took place yesterday at the Covenant School. So it was it was happening right as I was getting off the air with my show with Michelle Knezovic, and just everything breaking. And my mom's a teacher, so that immediately hit close to home, and just thinking about everybody and thoughts and prayers with everyone that affected by this.
Yeah, I mean, this is clearly not the forum to debate potential gun legislation or anything. And let's be honest, I think we're all pretty clear on where people on both sides of that argument stand, and the fact that they're not willing to move off their particular stance either way. What's most troubling to me about all of this is that these mass shootings in general, and in this particular case, school shootings as a subset of that, they have become, for lack of a better term, a fad. It's like for troubled individuals, they have happened often enough now that they have become sort of, in the minds of these folks, a valid means to air your grievances and unload whatever it is you want to unload. And that's what's going to keep them happening, right? And just think about what the next few days are going to be like. We in the media, right, we're going to focus on the criminal more so than the crime. Right. Like the killer's name is going to become common to all of us. We're all going to know it. There's going to be details of their manifesto released, and we're going to be combing through that and trying to pick apart their mental health status and those sorts of things. And the more attention that we pay to the criminal as this goes on, and this is the same thing that happens every time this takes place. It's just going to lend more credence to this idea that somebody else out there who's troubled and has whatever going on in their life, that this is maybe something they would want to do, and so the question becomes, and certainly it's been asked around here too. The question becomes, how does this change? Like, how do we change this?
Right.
And I've thought about this a lot, and to me there's only one thing that is going to move the needle that would create real change, and it's one thing that's not going to happen. But that one thing would be if some really brave parents said to Nashville police, or somewhere down the line, wherever, said, I want you to release the crime scene photos of my child. Or they stand up in front of the cameras with those photos and they say, look at what a 10-year-old looks like after they've been riddled by 12 bullets from an automatic assault rifle. The only way that this is going to change is we need to be horrified. And if those of us who have never been through this, have never witnessed one of these scenes, whatever, we don't really understand the horror of all this. And we've seen it here the last day or so, and it's understandable. So many people say I'm going to be praying for these folks and their families and this and that, and I have no doubt that is a sincere expression of intent and a desire to do something meaningful, but until we're suitably horrified. I mean, just think about this, like how the Vietnam War changed our perception in this country of what war is. Throughout the 20th century, it was, we're sending our boys overseas to go do God's work, and we're bringing them home with a hero's welcome and whatnot. And then you had the Vietnam War play out as the first war of the modern media age. And people were horrified by what they saw. And public sentiment turned to the point that there was no support for that war anymore, and that when veterans came home, Vietnam veterans were vilified for decades. Mm-hmm. And what changed that was 9/11 and the horror of the towers coming down. Then all of a sudden it was, let's fire up our golden boys and send them overseas and go do what needs to be done here. And for the last 20 years now, 20 plus years, we have the military salutes at all the sporting events and everything. All of that has changed. So just imagine the effect if all those people who were hitting their knees with a Bible in their hands last night were instead hitting their knees in front of a toilet to vomit because of just the horror of what they'd witnessed in these images. And again, it's way too big of an ask for any parents, and
Sure.
No parent is going to want to have their lasting image of their child for the world be that image. The parents are going to talk about what wonderful children they were, and we're going to see the bright smiling faces and all that. But to me, that is the only way. We need to be horrified into change, and I just don't think that we all understand how horrific these incidents are. And so, here we are, and it's happened in Nashville now. I can't. How many of us have heard? How many people say, "I can't believe it happened in my community"? Well,
Yeah.
that's because nobody gets their minds around how just truly awful this is, and what the scene must have been like in that school yesterday. So, I mean, that's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate it. I mean, I think you just hit the nail on the head on something, David. Is it's now happened in Nashville, and I mentioned my mom's a teacher, and I said this morning that my mom's been combine happened, and I remember that's when things changed. Like there was a noticeable change. Like my school. I actually went to an elementary school right across the street from the Covenant at St. Paul, and I remember that's when the doors had keypads and things got a little bit, because I was being born in the late 80s. I was still you could just go outside and didn't matter, and doors unlocked, and everybody was fine. And Columbine kind of changed that perception, but it was still it was way away. And and then there were obviously others, but I never feared, for my mom as a teacher, as an educator, like I did yesterday, and that was like where my mind went was, and I'm texting her like, hey, are you okay? Cause I didn't know if this was what this was, we didn't know what this was going to be.
Right.
And so it changes perspective. And I think, what you say is valid, and just the word is change. There's got to be change. And I'm one of those that I pray, I believe in it, and that's kind of how I have tried to help this, but also using this platform as best that we can to navigate really difficult waters, because there is no playbook on this. So, I mean, I think you and I cover sports because we don't want to cover hard news and things like that. So, but sometimes those two things mix, and that's kind of what we're at here.
So, again, this is not necessarily the forum to go deep into all of that, but it's impossible to ignore if you're in this town and if you care about this town in the least these couple days here and these next few days. And these discussions will take place. And I guess I have felt a certain measure of pride. As a member of the media, I have always had great admiration for Don Aaron and the way he handles himself in these situations, and I felt a strange sense of pride yesterday watching several of the national news networks talking, and they were talking about just how good he was in his first press briefing in terms of the clarity and the quality of the information that he provided. And on top of everything else the Nashville Police Department accomplished yesterday, I think his work in terms of helping inform people and trying to put people at ease with knowledge, I think shouldn't be overlooked at this point either.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Don Aaron, like you mentioned, I mean, we know Don of when we see Don, okay, it's big. And I remember the flood in McNair and the bombing on Christmas Day and obviously yesterday, but the Metro Police did their job, did a fine job, deserve all the accolades. I saw a Metro officer when I was at lunch and just said, "Hey, thank you." And it's important to do that. But we will take your calls 615-737-1025 as we go along. We are going to talk sports. That's what we do. But obviously our thoughts and our in everything with the families affected at the Covenant School yesterday. So we will not ignore that and continue reflection on that. And as any news comes available, we'll pass it along as well. You're listening to Stillman and Company. Chase McCabe, David Beauclair in for Jared today. 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
The crowd is standing on its feet. It's in the hole! It's in the hole!
Join 102.5 The Game for the second annual Music City Celebrity Golf Tournament, benefiting Souls for Souls, June 7th at Hermitage Golf Course. Put your team together and come play with athletes, musicians, and other local celebs.
See the ball.
Support a great cause and have loads of fun. Plus, you'll have the chance to win awesome prizes. Sign up to play, sponsor, or donate at theGameNashville.com/golf.
Hey, it's Mike from Newton Ford. Have you ever thought to yourself, buying a car online? That sounds like a nightmare. But fear not, my friends. With Newton FastPass, it's easier than catching a leprechaun. In fact, our system is so user-friendly that even a leprechaun can do it. And let me tell you, those little guys are notoriously bad with technology. Also, with Newton FastPass, you're practically guaranteed to get a great deal. It's like finding a 4-leaf clover in a field of overpriced cars. And who doesn't love a good deal? I mean, I'd be willing to bet that even the most skeptical among us would feel lucky to snag a great deal on a new car. That's not all. When you use Newton FastPass, we'll throw in a free leprechaun to help you navigate the process. And trust me, these little guys know their way around a car deal. Just be sure to keep an eye on them because they can be a little mischievous. So what are you waiting for? Visit NewtonFord.com and join the ranks of lucky car buyers. You might even feel like you're living in your own personal pot of gold. And remember, with Newton FastPass, you're always in luck.
Gary Ashton here. People walk up to me all the time and say, "Don't sell without the intel." This message couldn't be more true. Right now, it's a fantastic time to buy or sell your home in Nashville, but you can't do it without the intel. No one has more intel than the Gary Ashton team. So what is this intel we keep hearing about? Intel so you can sell your home without stagings or showings? Intel on where to find your next home so that you can sell your current home while the market is hot? And intel that helps you win the buyer battle and cash in on your home equity. For more intel, visit GaryAshton.com. where we can give you the insight and the most up-to-date real estate intel in Nashville. Plus, the Gary Ashton team is the official real estate team of the Nashville Predators. Get the confidence to sell your home and find the dream address without the stress. Visit us today at GaryAshton.com. That's GaryAshton.com. And remember, don't sell without the intel.
Hey, Joe Rexrode here for FanDuel. The tournament heating up, folks, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That is $1,000. and bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. All you got to do is go to FanDuel.com/Joe102. Sign up today to claim your no-sweat first bet. Then you can wager on everything from the money line, point spreads, which teams will be cutting down the nets. And, of course, we're down to 4. So we're getting close here. We got a shocking Final Four. I will tell you right now, I think I like San Diego State, and I think I like UConn to be the 2 teams that meet each other in the national championship game. Do whatever you want. Just do it on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Do not miss your shot at no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Go to FanDuel.com/Joe102. Make every moment more with FanDuel. You must be 21 or older, present in Tennessee. First online real money wager only, $10 deposit required. Refund issued is now withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line 800-889-9789.
We try to stay cool by being on social media.
I'm with it. I'm hip.
Follow us on Twitter at 1025thegame and on Instagram at 1025thegame Nashville.
Hey!
Oh yeah, and like us on Facebook too. You're listening to Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Of course. I mean, of course we do. And that's we're in March. We're continuing to build a football team, the best football team we can. And Ryan's healthy. He's getting healthy. I would say that he's putting the work in. It's been good to see him around the building. So yeah. We always expect that. But to make predictions, I think I've been through this last year. I'm not going to commit to anybody being on our roster on September. You know what I mean? I've seen it change too quickly. And of course that, we want Ryan as our quarterback and everybody else that's helped us win. That's what we want.
Mike Vrabel, Titans head coach, yesterday at the coach's breakfast. Welcome back in, Stillman and Company. Chase McCabe, David Beauclair in for Jared Stillman today. And I think Mike Vrabel, after last year, and as long as I'm the coach, A.J. Brown will be here, tempered things a little bit. That door is cracked open. I don't foresee trading A.J. Brown. That we all remember that just before the draft. But my whole thing with this is the Tannehill stuff. They are committal but non-committal all at the same time. It's kind of a little bit of both. And with the Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel like to use he's under contract. Ryan's doing great. He's been at the facility. He's been rehabbing and all that stuff. But there hasn't been he's our guy. This is our guy. This is our guy for this year and years to come. And if it's Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow or Tom Brady, you're not having these same type of answers that they have with Ryan Tannehill, because I think – right now, they don't know what might happen. They could find themselves in a position that they can move up to take a quarterback in the draft. I don't foresee them in the Lamar Jackson sweepstakes, but you never know.
Yeah, it's abundantly clear to me, based on everything that Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel have said thus far this offseason. And I really laughed yesterday with I've been through this last year comment from Mike Vrabel that I think his preference right now is to have Ryan Tannehill as his quarterback. I mean, one thing we've seen from Mike Vrabel in his 5 years as Titans coach is he likes guys he knows. He likes to bring in players that he's had a relationship with. He likes to bring in coaches he's had a relationship with. Clearly, Ryan Tannehill is a quarterback he knows, and he's a quarterback he knows he can win games with. So I think Mike Vrabel is very comfortable with the idea of Ryan Tannehill as his quarterback. But everything I have heard, just reading between the lines, screams to me, we are absolutely willing to talk trade for Ryan Tannehill. And if the Titans get an offer that they think is good enough, is that can change the team in a meaningful way, I have no doubt they will take that offer and shake things up here. And keep in mind, this is Rand Carthon's first shot at building a roster. You don't see a lot of guys get this job and say, you know what, I'm going to sit back for the first year and just sort of watch things and see how, like, guys want to make a splash. John Robinson in his first year traded the number 1 overall pick and then traded back up into the top 10 and you know, was moving all over the draft board that year.
Got DeMarco Murray.
And made a trade for DeMarco Murray, who was 2 years removed from leading the NFL in rushing. And you know, like, he was trying to make a big splash. So it certainly wouldn't be unexpected for Ran Carthon to be thinking, you know, I want to do something big or some things big right now and shake this thing up and get it going in the way I want it going. So I almost feel like as interesting, and this, you know, there have been more interesting marches for the Titans. There have been less interesting marches. I'm getting the feeling that April is going to be incredibly interesting, and that there are moves coming one way or another leading up into the draft here.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think, too, you know, what's on Ran Carthon's mind is he's probably going to get to do something that John Robinson never got to do, and that is, you know, potentially draft a quarterback in the first round. You know, now, obviously, J-Rob got Malik Willis last year in the 3rd round, but I think if Will Levis, for instance, falls to 11, there's a really good chance they take him. You know, they've addressed the offensive line in free agency. They haven't touched wide receiver except for Nick Westbrook-Akine, which I don't really understand. But
stunning to me.
You know, so they obviously could go that route. But I do think they're keeping their eyes open. Now, I also look at it is if they take Levis or Richardson or whoever at 11, Tannehill's still going to be the starter. I would subscribe and hope that they would subscribe to the Andy Reid method of Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes, and whoever you take, you sit them for the first year.
The wide receiver issue that you mentioned, that's really interesting to me, and this is what I want to watch now with Ran Carthon, because one thing that John Robinson was really consistent about in his time as GM was when there was a position group or a specific position of need, he typically addressed it in free agency and the draft. It was sort of like, we're going to fix it now and for the future, all at one shot. You can go back 2 years. You know, you signed Bud Dupree, you draft Rashad Weaver, right? That was pretty typical. You can find other. You can find other. You know, 2016, you trade for DeMarco Murray, you draft Derrick Henry. You know, there are any number of these moves where Robinson addressed one position with a veteran and with a rookie. The fact that they are still so desperately in need of wide receiver upgrades at this point really has me wondering if that number 1 pick doesn't have to be a wide receiver right now. Maybe you can play around and make some moves, and you know, I like a guy like Quentin Johnson out of TCU, right? Looks like the ultimate Titans receiver, and I've seen some analysis lately that says he might fall to the 2nd round, which seems unthinkable to me. But if that's a reality, then maybe the Titans are thinking, well, we move around, we get up earlier in the 2nd round, we get him. And we address quarterback or tackle or whatever it is then in the 1st round. But if Ran Carthon goes wide receiver in the 1st round, then based on what he has not done to this point, that is a clear signal to me that he's going to do this job a little differently in that sense than John. I mean, obviously there's going to be a number of ways he's going to do it differently, but that'll be one clear indicator of this is a difference in approach to how you're doing this thing.
Well, and I'm curious too, and you've covered this team for forever, for a long time. You know, going back to Bud Adams, you know how he operated. Obviously, how Floyd operated, and Floyd, you know, God rest his soul, has told stories on these airwaves about Bud and dealing with Bud, and you know, I've seen a lot of improvement with the organization with Amy Adams Strunk, and she's done things differently than her father. But then I've seen a couple of things that remind me of her father a little bit. And I think this offseason is kind of a prime example of it. And we all remember 2004. D-Mace has talked about it. They got to the point where Bud was like, all right, that's it. Yeah. Blow it up. And we remember all the cuts. And while they weren't to that level because this roster didn't have that type of run that roster did, it does remind me of that. And then, having to cut a check for the new stadium and trying to save the money. The cap stuff, you can figure the cap stuff out. It's the actual cash. That's where it's kind of reminding me of old Titans a little bit with how Bud Adams used to do things.
Yeah, and I mean, to be clear, they were never in the best cap situation, and they were going to have to make cuts, and that it's a good question that you're raising here. I think is Rand Carthen a GM who can control himself in free agency, or is he a GM who is tightly reined in at the moment by his owner, who's saying, we can't do these big cash heavy upfront deals right now, and I don't know. I'm kind of willing to wait a year or two before I make a clear determination on that front, and see if this is the norm of how he goes about doing business. But it certainly,
or was he told, hey, this is how you're going to do it?
Exactly. I mean, he's it certainly after a big money deal for Harold Landry last year and a big money deal for Bud Dupree the year before that, and like Titans fans had sort of gotten used to sort of the big splash in free agency that certainly has not come this year.
My question, though, is can both of these things, when it comes to the quarterback position, can both be true and can both work? We all remember last year when Tannehill said he wasn't here to mentor Malik Willis and the fallout from that. But if the Titans draft the young quarterback and Ryan Tannehill remains, what does that look like moving forward? We'll discuss that coming up next. Chase McCabe, David Beauclair in for Jared today. 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
I think it's a really good move.
TD, it's never the offseason for ESPN's Teron Davenport.
I mean, that's something you obviously have to look at.
He's always talking about what's next for the Tennessee Titans.
Quarterback is a really important thing that they have to get determined.
Check out TD, Mondays at 1, Thursdays at 3, and Friday mornings at 8:30. Plus, the Talkin' with TD podcast.
Looking forward to that.
TD is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Bob's Steak and Chop House in the Omni Nashville Hotel.
Hi, this is Chef Mark again from Bob's Steak and Chop House at the Omni Nashville Hotel. Come join us before any Preds game or concert at Bridgestone Arena. Enjoy one of our prime steaks. Why Bob's, you may ask? Because at Bob's, we not only serve prime beef, but the top 2% of prime beef in the world. Try our certified Japanese A5 or Australian tomahawks. So come see us at Omni before you go to any game and make sure to ask for Chef Mark. Let's go Preds!
Attending an event downtown? Dine at Bob's Steak and Chop House in the Omni Nashville Hotel.
Our diamonds are direct from the source, direct from the cutters. There's no middlemen, there's no markup.
Meet Ben Wilkes, 10-year jewelry professional at Genesis Diamonds.
We've got everything from half a carat all the way up to 15 carats and everything in between. So I never have to go looking for something.
And if you're in search of that one-of-a-kind designer ring,
lots of times they come in and she's got a very specific picture, something that she wants, and she's shocked and amazed when I go right to a case and pull exactly what she's been looking at out.
And beyond the best price and selection, every customer at Genesis gets one-on-one personal attention with no hidden agenda.
Every customer that I've ever worked with has my personal cell phone number. It doesn't come from an automated system. It is person-to-person interaction. We're not on commission, so what that means is regardless of what you buy or don't buy, I'm paid the same.
Genesis Diamonds.
Here you get more, you get bigger, better, you get prettier. The quality, the selection, transparency, customer service, it can't be touched. It's unmatched.
Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Social Furniture's Spring Home Makeover Sales event is going on now with the latest styles and colors in stock, ready for immediate delivery and setup. If you don't need a fancy schmancy showroom or the stress of a high-pressure sales team, but you don't want to pay high-quality prices, come to Social Furniture. All top-quality furniture and mattresses are on sale now. Don't miss this extreme home makeover sales event that's going on now at Social Furniture.
I shop at Social Furniture because of the way I'm treated.
That's Social Furniture on Charlotte Avenue.
What's up, everybody? Michelle Knesvik here for Superbook Sports. And listen, make 2023 the year you beat Vegas. Superbook Sports gives you the chance every week to go head-to-head with the best odds makers in Las Vegas. No fancy computer algorithms, no guys across the pond setting lines for American sports, just the best team of odds makers in the business behind the counter at Superbook in Las Vegas. Plus, check out some of the best odds boosts and promo bets anywhere. Download the Superbook Sportsbook app or visit superbook.com to start your battle against Vegas right now. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789.
Interest rates are rising, but not at Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Replace your old unit fast before new regulations increase prices up to 20%. Get a new unit today at today's price and receive up to $1,500 off. Or get 18 months of no payments, so the first payment is not until summer of 2024. At Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, all new systems come with a 10-year parts and labor warranty. Schedule your appointment now at springhillac.com. That's springhillac.com.
102.5 and 106.3, The Game is live and local.
And now, let's meet the starting lineups.
Robbie and Rexrode, 6 to 9.
You are talking about a team that's building a roster.
Chase and Michelle, 9 to 11.
He's still under contract.
It's not always X's and O's.
Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace, 11 to 2.
Trades, free agents.
Let's get it going. I think this is a good hire.
And Stillman and Company, 2 to 6.
I can give you one of the best coaches in the league.
And don't forget, we're your home for all things Nashville.
He scored!
Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3, The Game.
Hey, Nashville, this is Eli Gold, voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5, The Game.
I continue to feel they are committal while also being non-committal at the same time. I go back to J-Rob's phrase of, I don't foresee trading A.J. Brown, and that keeps popping up in my head, that I feel like they're leaving the door cracked open in case something happens. Now, with that said, I don't believe this team's in on Lamar Jackson. I think that's more if a quarterback were to fall to them at 11, what could that mean moving forward for them? That's how I look at it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's really where it is. But one thing you do have to also put into perspective is the way Mike Vrabel said about not guaranteeing that a guy will be on the roster in September. He was like, we saw last year, and you know what happened last year. He said, as long as I'm the coach, A.J. Brown will not be traded, and we know what happened on draft day. So I think that's also something to put into the mix. But you look at just the whole situation, even with Derrick Henry, asking both of them about, the damage control, both of them meaning Rand Carthon as well as Mike Vrabel. Do you have to go into damage control mode? And they said that they're relying on the relationships, especially Mike Vrabel, the relationships that they established with these guys. So I think they're fully invested in Ryan Tannehill being the quarterback. Now, obviously, if something comes up, they could definitely go about making that move. And you mentioned the draft, and I think when you look at Tannehill, he's a guy who's, in my opinion, mature and mentally strong enough to handle that and understand that it is a business, and he knows he won't be there forever. So if they draft a guy at 11, I don't think that that's going to impact Ryan Tannehill.
That was Teron Davenport earlier today on Chase and Michelle discussing this, that could the Titans find their next quarterback, their franchise guy. Chase McCabe, David Beauclair with you in for Jared Stillman today. And, as you know, that's something that they have been trying to do since Steve McNair. They've had a couple of flashes here and there. Vince had, a couple of good years, and then we all know how that ended. And Jake Locker never panned out and went through different coaches. And Marcus Mariota never panned out to the way that they wanted to. And then they've had some stopgaps like Matt Hasselbeck and Ryan Tannehill, Kerry Collins along the way. But they haven't been able to find that guy, that McNair, the next guy. And I wonder, is this even the draft to do it? And two, can they find themselves in a position to do it? And some of this, my thought process with this conversation stemmed off a Mike Tannenbaum mock draft that he did for ESPN, the former GM of the Jets and been with the Dolphins. And he had the Titans selecting Anthony Richardson 11th overall out of Florida. Now, I hate that. I don't love that pick. I don't like Anthony Richardson as an NFL quarterback. I'm very, very nervous about that. And I know some people think, oh no, he's going to be a really good prospect. Some are kind of like I am. So I don't know where you stand on that, but I know for me, I would prefer somebody like a Will Levis or even Hendon Hooker.
It's interesting, though. I think that Mike Vrabel, ever since the first game of 2021, when Kyler Murray and the Cardinals came in here and tore these guys up, Mike Vrabel has made a bunch of sort of comments within comments. Like when he's talking about something, you'll hear him say things about the way the quarterback position is trending and the athleticism and this and that. And I'm not sure he has ever gotten over what Kyler Murray did to him, it did to his defense that day in terms of the elusiveness and the ability to make plays off schedule and whatnot. And I think that was a factor in drafting Malik Willis last year, that I think in a perfect world right now, Mike Vrabel's next quarterback would be a guy like that. So if Richardson is there at 11, I think they absolutely would love to have him or somebody like him. I think they absolutely would be interested. This is going off the question you're asking specifically, but I think they absolutely would be interested in adding Lamar Jackson if they could figure out a way to do that. That's a lot easier said than done now. But I honestly believe that Mike Vrabel has these quiet moments in his office where, as a defensive guy, and keep in mind that's his background as a player and as a coach, that he's thinking, God, I would hate to have to deal with that on a week-to-week basis, and that sort of athleticism, and you just look at what Lamar Jackson has accomplished, for example. I could absolutely see the Titans going in that direction in the draft, to try. And the question becomes then, to your point, I think it's very easy to say, yes, Ryan Tannehill is your quarterback, your first-round pick this year. If it's Richardson or whoever it is, yeah, he's a backup until Tannehill gets hurt or until his contract runs out or the Titans lose so many games that it just you might as well play the kid, kind of thing, whichever happens first. But what happens to Malik Willis then?
Right.
That's almost the more interesting question to me.
Yeah, so it's funny. While you were talking, you sparked two things that I wanted to hit on. Malik Willis is one of them, though, because I wonder if there's a fear that they will never admit, but you got to know that football teams have had this. Did we break him? Did we, because they had to rush him? Because I think when they drafted him in the third round, in their mind, he's not going to touch the field because Tannehill's been healthy. Now, they didn't do themselves any favors because they didn't address the back. They made him the backup quarterback. They thought that they could keep Logan Woodside on the practice squad and call him up, and that backfired on him. And so then he was forced into action way before he was ready. And I think we all knew in that first game going, uh-oh. Yeah. like this kid is far from ready. But is there a thought of, okay, now his confidence is wrecked. We've put him in a situation that he wasn't prepared for. Can he come back from that? And my second point on that I'll tie in is Vrabel did something that I think could turn out to be the move of the year, and that is bringing in Charles London as the quarterback coach and the pass game coordinator, because I think he recognized the fact that they have to do a better job of developing that position.
Having talked to Malik Willis numerous times throughout the season last year, I don't think his confidence is shaken. He's he sort of rolls with the punches is the overwhelming impression I've gotten from him. But it was interesting to watch. To me, the offseason and particularly training camp and the preseason last year were all about the number one goal for the Titans. They were all about making sure Malik Willis saw and did enough to become the number 2 quarterback. I think that was their whole plan, and I think they felt pretty good about that by the end of the preseason, to the point that I also think their thinking at that point was off-season training camp, preseason 2023 is going to be all about getting Malik Willis to be the starter. I think the thinking at that point was they're going to cut Ryan Tannehill this offseason and do everything they could to make sure Willis was their starter. Obviously, what they saw in the regular season, if I'm right, what they saw in the regular season changed their minds, and understandably so, to where they say, okay, we got to pump the brakes and we got to take more time with this guy. If they don't do anything with a quarterback in the draft, say, that becomes interesting too. Are you comfortable with them? Because the Brand Carthen is on the record as saying he thinks one of the most, or what he likes in quarterbacks, the skill he likes anticipatory passers. Malik Willis has a lot of gifts. Malik Willis is not an anticipatory passer. He's not a guy who cuts it loose into a window knowing the wide receiver is going to be there. That's kind of the number one issue. So to me, that's the question. It's not so much his confidence, it's do they think he can ever be that guy who trusts it and just cuts it loose, or is he always going to be the guy who has to hold on to the ball, see the receiver come open, or rely on all his other gifts then to make something happen? And that's that's an important question that this team is going to have to answer, because if they don't think he can be that guy, then you say, okay, that didn't work, we move on and we try something else. But if they think he can get there, then how do you structure your quarterback room if you draft a guy? How do you structure it if you don't draft a guy? If you don't draft a guy, do you bring in another free agent this year to sort of be the number two and slow things down for Willis that much more? It's a really interesting kind of important issue for this team right now. And I agree with you about Charles London. I think I think Mike Vrabel likes Pat O'Hara. Pat O'Hara was clearly enjoyed working with Malik Willis, but I don't know that Pat O'Hara sees the game the way that Malik Willis does, and maybe they needed somebody who's sort of wired the same way that Willis is that way.
615-737-1025 if you want to weigh in on our phone or text line, because I asked this question of, let's take C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young out of this because they're probably going to be way gone. But if you look at Malik Willis, he's already here. If you look at Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, and Hendon Hooker, I would put those three. Who would be the best fit for the Titans? 615-737-1025. Tim Hasselbeck had thoughts on that earlier today as well, so you'll hear from him coming up next. It's Stillman and Company. Join 102.5 The Game for the second annual Music City Celebrity Golf Tournament, benefiting Souls for Souls on June 7th at Hermitage Golf Course. You can put your team together and come play with athletes, musicians, and other local celebs to support a great cause and have loads of fun. Plus, you'll have the chance to win awesome prizes. Sign up, play, sponsor, or donate at theGameNashville.com/golf.
We are your home for every big pass.
Kevin Harvick takes over the race lead.
Big wreck.
Trouble turn two. One car is around and hard into the outside wall.
And big win.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has won the Daytona 500.
Yeah! Woo!
Catch every lap of NASCAR on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
The choice is yours. Wednesdays at 8:45. Brought to you by Jarrett Companies. Now hiring experienced sprinkler experts. Go to jarrettfire.com. JARRETT fire.com. Jarrett Companies, a company above and beyond industry standards.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Hey, Willie Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days. And a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. Use that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Men, this is Evan Bass with the Tennessee Men's Clinic, and I've been helping men with sexual health issues for many years. I've seen the pain and anxiety that men walk into the clinic with when erectile dysfunction is affecting them. And I also know the heartache and difficulty it can bring to their partner. At the Tennessee Men's Clinic, we've been successfully treating men for ED for many years now. We've seen the amazing impacts that those treatments have on a man's confidence and positivity. And we've seen the wonderful things those treatments also do for a man's relationship. That's why I'm pleased to announce that we are now offering the same great services we offer at our Nashville clinic at our new location in Franklin, which will make it much more convenient for those men living south of Nashville to get treated. So call us today and book your appointment at our Midtown location or at our new clinic in Cool Springs. Your first visit is only $99 and includes blood work and a medical consult. Call 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com.
Visit our website to learn more, including side effects, treatments, extra results vary.
312 Pizza Company is your spot for the best Chicago-style eats right here in Nashville. From thin crust pizza to deep dish pizza to Italian beef sandwiches and Chicago dogs. Doesn't get much better than that. Until now. 312 Pizza Company is now serving up their award-winning pizza by the slice. All day, every day. Don't have time to wait for a full pie? No problem. Get a slice instead. Order a full pie but want a little more? Add another slice. Do it. Honestly, just go get a slice. 312 Pizza Company. Nashville's authentic Chicago pizzeria. Go get a slice.
Sports and leadership go hand in hand. In fact, 94% of women executives were student athletes. Play Like a Girl is creating a more equal playing field for the next generation of women in leadership. You can help too. Become a mentor, donor, or volunteer. Learn more at iplaylikeagirl.org/mentor.
One is smart.
This has just been a constant trend for this team.
One is funny. That's right. Funny looking, maybe. Chase and Michelle with Chase McCabe and Michelle Knezovic.
Are you listening?
I'm listening.
Everybody's listening.
Weekdays from 9 to 11. Presented by Hair Club. Hair Club. Love your hair. Live your life. On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Chase McCabe and David Beauclair in for Jared Stillman today. Stillman and Company delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. 615-737-1025. That is our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. What do you think? Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, or Hendon Hooker? Would one of those three quarterbacks work for the Tennessee Titans? And how would you rank them when it comes to their draft evaluation? Tim Hasselbeck, ESPN NFL analyst, was on Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace earlier today and gave his ranking of the three.
Like, to me, Anthony Richardson, I would rank him last if I was a team that wanted somebody to play within the first year. Like, Anthony Richardson's got 13 career starts. He has unbelievable physical ability, but he's played very little football. And I just think it's hard to be good at playing the toughest position in sports at the highest level when you don't have a lot of reps under your belt doing it. And that is the case with Richardson. So I would rank him last out of the three. And I would probably put Levis as the first guy in that group. Not to say he's a perfect prospect, but he's got nearly 40 starts. He has all the physical tools. He has a lot of characteristics that your team would rally around in terms of toughness and competitiveness and all of that. So, this past season wasn't great, but the season prior was outstanding. And then, you get to Hendon Hooker, who I would, prefer over Richardson. And quite honestly, there are things I like about Hendon, more than things I like about, Levis.
That was Tim Hasselbeck earlier today on Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. And it's interesting of how people view Hendon Hooker from the University of Tennessee. When referring to Mike Tannenbaum's draft, his mock draft, he has Hendon Hooker 5th overall going to Seattle, which a lot of pundits have him in the second round or maybe the end of the first round. There's concern about the knee coming off the torn ACL and obviously about his age. But I like Hendon Hooker as a draft prospect. And, if the Titans were to take a wide receiver or another position in the first round and Hendon was able to fall to them in the second round, I would take that all day long. But how do you view those three?
Yeah, Hooker's interesting to me because he's such a personality and a natural leader, which I think is important. People are going to say, well, he's a system quarterback, and some of his numbers are inflated by the speed at which Tennessee runs its offense and the number of plays they get in a game, and that's absolutely correct. But you look at him, look how consistent he was between Virginia Tech and Tennessee. Completed better than 60% of his passes every season, and low interceptions, very, very little interceptions, great touchdown to interception ratio. And those are the kinds of things that having done it at two different places with two different offenses, I think he's, he's a guy that is overlooked in this discussion of Young and Stroud and Richardson and Levis a little bit, but I think he's it's the classic case with Hendon Hooker of you only need one team to like you, and he's the type of guy to me that there is going to be at least one team that is in love with him, and I agree with Tim Hasselbeck. Richardson scares me just because of his lack of experience. Having covered the NFL and the NHL for a couple decades now, the one thing that has become almost undeniably true to me is that if you produce in college or in the minor leagues, in hockey's case, you're much more likely to produce in the professional rank, the top professional ranks, than you're facing the same guys largely. It's so the fact that Hooker has put up the numbers he has and over 4 seasons as opposed to one. To me, he's much less of a risk than Richardson. Richardson is the ultimate risk-reward sort of pick in that, his physical gifts, his size, all that stuff, undeniable.
Yeah, and I 100% agree. I feel like to me, Hendon Hooker is almost the perfect scenario of a guy that you're not going to play in the first year. And, yes, his age is obviously a concern, but I look at it as if I'm going to get a guy for, let's say, 6 really good years, and it could, mean I get a Super Bowl out of it, then I'll do it. And it's hard to know that, but if he's a guy that you have identified that can play in this league, can be your starting franchise guy that you can build around, then why not? And you could find yourself in a position to get some weapons that would fit his skill set, around him, and then let him sit behind Tannehill for a year to continue to get healthy and also learn what it's like to be a pro. Will Levis, you could do the same thing, but I think Will Levis could also start for you day one if he needed to.
Well, Levis has the arm strength. Like, that's the one thing that you hear so much about him, and that will forever be a clarion call for NFL personnel people for some reason. They just fall, it's the Jeff George thing. Like, nobody threw a better football than Jeff George. But was Jeff George a great quarterback? Was he a winning quarterback? Was he, there's so much more that goes into that. And the thing with the thing with Levis that I look at is, you mentioned his 2021 season was better than 2022.
Yep.
Well, he had better players around him in 2021. So that sort of says to me, Levis, the ceiling for Levis is to be a Ryan Tannehill type quarterback where, you're not going to win because of him. He'll be good enough to win you games if he has the right people around him. So if you're going to draft him, know that about him. Know that you're going to see some spectacular throws from time to time. He's probably going to develop to the point that he's a good quality starting quarterback, but he's likely not going to be a guy who just by his presence on the field elevates everybody around him.
Yeah, he is somebody though that I joke with Michelle Knezovic, who's a Kentucky grad, that I'm drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit. I'm drinking the blue Kool-Aid on Will Levis. That there's something that I like about him. Every mock draft I look at pretty much has him going, maybe to the Colts, but somewhere in that range, depending on what kind of trades go down. But I would. If they end up with him and can address some of the other needs that they have, then I'd be fine with it. Hendon Hooker, though, I would be very okay with that, for them to have him and let him kind of be the quarterback of the future, because I feel like that's the type of play that if you're approaching 11 and Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel look at each other and it's like, okay, I think we could move back. And let's move back, and you get an extra pick somewhere, and maybe the extra pick, gives you Hendon Hooker. Maybe you luck out and you get Jalen Hyatt too, and then you address. Think about that.
You're going full on orange.
I'm going full
today.
on big orange today, but I mean, think about it. You address the receiver position and the quarterback position, all from one school, in your state.
But it would certainly be great PR, and I guess there's something to be said for. Just look at Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, right? There's something to be said for pairing a couple of young guys, supremely talented guys who know each other already and have that relationship. It's certainly not an easy thing to do. For so many things would have to happen for that to take place, but.
That would sell tickets for that new stadium.
that absolutely would sell tickets. And the question about Hooker's age, you talked about that. Like, look at Tom Brady, look at Aaron Rodgers, look at even Ryan Tannehill. Like this idea that quarterbacks are going to be washed up by the time they're 31, 32 years old these days is, with modern training techniques and the rules that are in place to protect quarterbacks and all those. There's no reason to think you couldn't get, whoever drafts Hooker, even if he sits for a year, there's no reason to think that he can't be your starting quarterback for 10 years or so.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that is 100% true. Coming up next, we'll shift gears into the Predators as this roster has evolved quite a bit this year. David Poyle discussed that earlier today. We'll give our thoughts. It's Stillman and Company, Chase McCabe, David Beauclair in for Jared today. 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
All the big plays.
For the win! Yes! Vanderbilt wins it!
All the big stories.
Quarterback carousel. What the Titans decide to do at the quarterback position.
All in one place. We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3.
10% chance of making the playoffs.
Checkered flag is in the
Team with
air.
incredible talent.
Every team in the league.
The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Spring in and style up with huge savings on top athletic brands at your Dick's Sporting Goods warehouse sales store in Franklin. Stay active this spring with up to 70% off the athletic styles you love. Shop deals on thousands of styles from top athletic apparel and footwear brands, like $10 tees, tanks, and shorts for the family, $20 swimwear, $20 golf polos, and running footwear for $60 or less. Find incredible deals and incredible style at your Dick's Sporting Goods warehouse sales store in Franklin at Watson Glen.
Cards issued by Celtic Bank, member FDIC. Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's business cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp's software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 3.5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp for free. Just go to ramp.com/sports. ramp.com/sports. ramp.com/sports.
Gary Ashton here. People walk up to me all the time and say, don't sell without the intel. This message couldn't be more true. Right now is a fantastic time to buy or sell your home in Nashville, but you can't do it without the intel. No one has more intel than the Gary Ashton team. So what is this intel we keep hearing about? Intel so you can sell your home without stagings or showings? Intel on where to find your next home so that you can sell your current home while the market is hot? And intel that helps you win the buyer battle and cash in on your home equity. For more intel, visit GaryAshton.com, where we can give you the insight and the most up-to-date real estate intel in Nashville. Plus, the Gary Ashton team is the official real estate team of the Nashville Predators. Get the confidence to sell your home and find the dream address without the stress. Visit us today at GaryAshton.com. That's GaryAshton.com. And remember, don't sell without the intel.
615 Chutney. You might recognize the name. Real Nashvillians know the 615 Chutney food truck used to be the spot. Now they have a full restaurant in Bellevue. Make no mistake, it's a new look with live music, an art gallery, and even a robot server. Yeah, a lot has changed, but it's still the same old chutney. They still serve up authentic and delicious South Indian cuisine to hundreds of satisfied customers every week. And they've become a Nashville staple along the way. Just ask around. Open for dine-in, carry out, and delivery through Grubhub. That's 615 Chutney in Bellevue, a very Indian affair.
Now, your Game Center update.
This Game Center update is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. The Nashville Predators are back in action tonight up in Boston to take on the Bruins. The team announced today that they have recalled forward Michael McCarron and defenseman Kevin Gravel from AHL Milwaukee. Captain Roman Josi was on the ice for morning skate in a non-contact jersey and will not play tonight. Puck drop for Nashville versus Boston is set for 6 with pregame starting at 5 right here on the Preds Radio Network. The NFL owners' meetings are currently taking place out in Arizona. Titans head coach Mike Vrabel was there speaking to the media about some of the recent signings, including offensive tackle Andre Dillard.
Dillard, is a player that we feel like his best football is in front of him with a new opportunity. Very skilled pass protector, which is something that we have to improve on. We have to be able to protect our quarterback. Bad things happen. We've all seen it. We've always talked about it. So I was excited to be able to add him.
The NFL has approved some rule changes at the owners' meetings for this upcoming season, including players being able to wear the number 0. This update is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. I'm Ian Safar for 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 102.5 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 102.5 and 106.3.
A Betty performance.
Do your job.
And the Tigers regain the lead.
The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff. You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Chase McCabe, David Beauclair in for Jared Stillman today. Ian Safar here as well. 615-737-1025. That is our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and we're broadcasting from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. Predators and Boston Bruins tonight. Pre-game coverage at 5 o'clock with Max Hers, and discussing them right now. And also, want to mention too, obviously our thoughts are with everybody affected by yesterday's tragedy at the Covenant School, and something that we will continue to discuss. And as more news comes out, I know there's a lot of footage and video that Metro Police has released. If you so choose to view that, it's been on the news. But my mind's been with those families of the victims and everybody at the school. Even you know, the ones that that did get to go home last night, and the weeks and days and years ahead of, you know, not forgetting that, because those kids, you know, that's obviously something that they're going to have to remember for a long time. So just keeping everybody in our thoughts as we move forward and try and do what we do, but also being, you know, cognizant of that as well. So we will continue to take your thoughts as you have them. But the Predators, as I mentioned, in action tonight against Boston. And David Poile was on Robbie and Rexrode earlier this morning and discussed just how much this roster has changed, David, over the course of this year. You look at the opening day roster compared to now, it is quite different, and that has been because of trades and trading assets off and getting draft picks and prospects, and then also injuries that have plagued this team, yet they still find themselves 5 points out of a playoff spot, which is pretty remarkable. Here was David Poile earlier today on the evolution of the team this year.
You know, it's on and on. I mean, I think you get the point that we've had a tremendous transformation from the beginning of the season to where we are today. And so by the time we get to next year and we go through the draft and what we get there, you know, maybe it's a player like Reed Schaefer, who we got in the Ekholm deal. Maybe he comes into play in Milwaukee. Maybe he's got a chance to play here. And then you have whatever we do in the off season. So the Predators are, you know, a little bit of a team in transition, and we're certainly going to go from one of the older teams in the league to one of the youngest teams in the league. And again, I think it's going to take a little bit of time, but I like a lot of the things that we've done with our team and what our chances are of, you know, getting better quicker to get back to be a consistent playoff team, but more importantly, to be a team that actually can compete for the Stanley Cup.
And he uses that phrase, you know, a quicker turnaround. And what's interesting is, you know, everybody that was clamoring for a rebuild, you know, my pushback was, well, look, sometimes that takes a lot longer than you want it to, and that usually results in people getting fired. Now, David Poile comes out, announces his retirement. Barry Trotz is going to take over as the GM, and I think that David has done a tremendous job leaving Barry a cupboard that's not necessarily full, perhaps, but he's leaving him in a really good position to fill that cupboard up for the future as this team moves forward. But I also think that this transition that he talked about could be a lot quicker with the way these young guys are playing.
Well, yeah, number one, David Poile should be commended. I mean, given his track record, given how long he's been a GM, given the fact that he's never won a Stanley Cup, the easiest thing would have been for him to say, I'm going to keep my team together, I'm going to see if we can't sneak into the playoffs, and I'm going to see if we can't make one more run at this thing. Mm-hmm. But, you know, it shows the type of person David is, that he, you know, he was willing to sign off on these moves and set Barry Trotz up for success with with a good number of draft picks, some good young players, you know, everything they need. And don't be fooled. Like, David Poile didn't do all that. You know, Barry Trotz hasn't been just sitting there off on the side saying, David, let me know when July 1st comes. You know, like, Barry Trotz was involved in these moves and in a lot of the decision making before he was formally announced as the as the GM in waiting here.
Like, I had in my head with the Tanner Jeannot trade that David's on the phone and Barry's behind him like, hey, get one more pick. Come on, ask for one more pick.
Or I'm fine without having I'm fine with letting him go because you know, one thing that we saw. And this is interesting to me because I never thought of Barry as a GM type. Like, I've known Barry since day one, and he's a super smart hockey guy. He part of his success is that he really understands people and what you or I or you know, any of his players might need at a particular moment in terms of a kick in the pants or a pat on the back or whatever. Like, he has a great feel for that. And I just assumed he was going to coach until he didn't want to coach anymore. So this is interesting to me. But what we saw when he left here was that he does have a good sense of what kind of team he wants. Like, as Predators coach, David Poyle gave him his opportunity, and largely, even for all the years they were together, David Poyle acted as the big brother to Barry Trotz and said, I'm going to give you you're going to get the players I give you. You're going to be happy about it, and you're going to go win games with them. And Barry Trotz did that. David changed a little bit when Peter Laviolette came in. Peter Laviolette was very clear on what he wanted and articulated it in a way that David accommodated him much more so than he did Barry. But when you look at what Barry did in Washington, for example, he got a T.J. Oshie, he got a Justin Williams. Like, these are guys that I know for a fact Barry Trotz had admired for a long time. Yep. They were Barry Trotz type players. And what happens? He wins a cup in Washington. So Barry knows what a good hockey player is, or what a Barry Trotz hockey player is, and what he wants a Barry Trotz team to be. So, how these moves in particular set him up for what he wants to do and will be able to do more of it is going to be fun to watch here as he moves into this role and really takes over day to day.
Well, I look at a kid like Igor Afanasyev, who's just gotten called up, and I was sitting at the game with a buddy that, has been a fan of the team for a long time, but doesn't follow it like he used to. And so he's asking me about all these new players, and I said, Igor reminds me of a Jordan Tutu with a little more skill. And, like, with a guy that, he could be top 6, but he's going to bring that tenacity and not afraid to get in your face and not afraid to drop the mitts and has a little attitude to him. That's a Barry Trotz type player. That's a guy that Trotzy loves to have on his team that, will just go out there and get in the mix and do what needs to be done. And I think Tanner Jeannot was too, but obviously there was going to be a lot of value for him for these teams that are pushing, for playoff contention and making a deep run. But I agree with you that I think David Poyle should certainly be commended for setting this up the way he has. Because I was kind of thinking that this is, he wasn't going to make big moves and he wasn't going to sell off and he was going to try and make one more run at it. And ultimately, we find out that this has been in the works for a while, and it seems like the perfect end to that part of the story to hand it off to the first coach in franchise history. And so
it feels like to me, though, he waited a year too long to do all of this.
Yeah.
He clung for far too long to 2017 and that group, largely that group that had made the run. Let's face it, the core of Ryan Johansson and Philip Forsberg and Roman Josi and Matthias Eklund and a couple other guys. They didn't win in 2017. And with each passing year, they got farther and farther away. But I felt like David clung too much to that memory. Like, I think it was I would have let Philip Forsberg walk last year, or I would have tried to trade him at the deadline. Or I think he's a year. He waited a year too long in terms of shaking this thing up. But it's happened, and there are still some big names under some big contracts that aren't going anywhere. So we'll see how, this shakes out going forward. Because that's the other thing. When you're talking about Philip Forsberg not playing and Ryan Johansson not playing and now Matt Duchene probably not playing for a while, it's those guys are going to take up roster spots again next year in training camp, and the young guys who don't have to go through waivers, they're going to be sent back down. And unless Barry Trotz can find a way to make some really big moves this offseason, this is still going to be an evolution and not just a complete changeover to something new.
Well, I believe one way or another, and they may have to get creative to do it, I don't see a scenario where Johansson and Duchene are both back next year. I think one could be gone. Whether that's a buyout for Johansson or you find somebody that would trade for Duchene, because I think he probably has more value before his no trade kicks in. Johansson, I'm hard pressed to say you're going to be able to trade him unless you're eating maybe half the salary. But
yeah,
I think that could be on the table. For sure. The injuries have been a concern, though, but it's also given us a glimpse of what the future could look like. But there's something we haven't talked about in a while, and I'm curious if that's still something that's on people's minds. I'll bring that up next. It's Chase McCabe and David Beauclair in for Stillman and Company today here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
185! Every team needs a quarterback. 185! That's why we have
Hasselbeck, bootleg, rollout, toss, touchdown.
Tim.
You can run good plays at the right time.
ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck gives his expertise on all things NFL.
You evaluate players, and then you're turning them over to the coaching staff.
Every Tuesday at noon.
At the right time.
With Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. Tim on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
This week at the Electronic Express Markdown Mania event, get instant savings of up to 40% off in every department, including all 4K TVs, laptops and tablets, housewares, gaming consoles, speakers, and more. At Electronic Express, we have up to 50% off all your appliance needs in stock and ready to deliver. Plus, buy now, pay later with up to 3 years free financing. Shop the Markdown Mania sales event at Electronic Express. We make it happen.
Have you seen the selection of luxury pre-owned Rolex watches they now have at Genesis Diamonds? If not, prepare to be amazed.
If people really know the watch world, they come in and they're in shock. They're like, I cannot believe you have this selection here. They're able to see them, touch them, feel them.
Meet Genesis watch expert Charlie Rivers, who says over the past few years, Genesis buyers have scoured the world to build a collection of luxury pre-owned Rolexes, including all the hard-to-find models.
Daytonas, Pandas, Sky Dwellers, a huge selection of Submariners, Hulks, Kermits, anything that you could ever possibly want. We have every luxury pre-owned Rolex that we have here. We ensure that it's in pristine condition.
So come in today and find the timepiece of your dreams at Genesis. Or if you already own a Rolex and are looking to trade for a different model or even sell it, Genesis can help you get top dollar.
If you have a Rolex, definitely bring it in. I would love to see it and do a complimentary evaluation on it and see what we can do for you.
Genesis Diamonds, now with one of the largest selections of luxury pre-owned Rolexes in America. Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Sometimes the best part of the day is when the day is done. The Rusty Nail in Hermitage has been the best part of the day for many since their doors opened. They provide a great local atmosphere with a big back patio and volleyball courts, plus great drinks like $3 2-lane beer drafts and great food, especially the wings. Call now to reserve your private events or corporate parties, or simply call up a few old pals and tell them to meet you down at the Rusty Nail. See you there. Cheers.
Honey, come here, quick.
What is it?
Shh, check it out. The prices on all these highly rated tequilas are amazing. Total Wine must have made a mistake.
Nope, they always have the best deals in town. Remember that amazing reposado your sister brought over last week? See, it's right here.
Whoa, that's a low price. I mean, whoa, that's a low price.
With the lowest prices for over 30 years, you'll always find what you love and love what you find. Only at Total Wine & More. Drink responsibly, B21.
Natalia, solid dismount, but that little pause is a deduction.
Top tumblers hope to stick the landing with Coach Jasmine.
That aerial sequence still needs work.
She needs more certified athletic trainers to find her balance.
Focus. I'm going to need you for the all-around. Wait, who's spotting the vault?
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
This week's Nashville's best deal is the all-new Hot Works Goodlettsville off Long Hollow Pike. Right now, join for just $39 in time for their grand opening April 1st. That's $60 off at thegamenashville.com/deals. Hot Works offers 24/7 infrared fitness in 15 and 30-minute virtually led sauna sessions. Get more workout in less time at Hot Works. And right now, save $60 on enrollment at thegamenashville.com/deals.
Want to weigh in on the conversation?
It's a brain booster.
Slide into our DMs. Or just text or call at 615-737-1025. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. You're listening to Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
David, on the injury front, as you guys prepare for this week, is there any more clarity on in terms of Yossi and his injury, or Forsberg, or anybody you guys could be getting back soon at this point?
No, the only player, Yossi's on the trip, Boston and Pittsburgh. He's not going to play tonight, but I think the fact that he's on the trip would indicate that he's close. I'm not sure he's going to play in Pittsburgh, but he would be the closest one. Other than that, not this week for anybody else.
That was David Poyle, Predators general manager, earlier today on Robbie and Rexrode. When asked about the injuries, I love how forthright David is on things. He's very upfront. Chase McCabe, David Beauclair here with you, and Barry was.
Is it just me though, or does it feel like? I mean, it was 2-3 weeks ago. Philip Forsberg was close, remember?
Yeah.
And he was on the trip. It feels like somewhere along the line they decided we're just going to shut him down for the year.
Well, and I was going to bring that up because I wonder if they look at their position right now, because they're in a position where they either they're going to catch lightning in the bottle and they're going to get lucky and they're going to sneak in and they're going to get that 8th spot probably in the West, or they're going to stay exactly where they are and they're going to miss it and they're going to be the 10th best team in the West.
Right.
And so either way, they've accomplished what they wanted to accomplish, selling off, different assets and getting draft picks. They got 13 draft picks for this year's draft. So I do wonder if they kind of look at it of like, because I think we all know what Phillips' injury is, upper body, but he hit his head. So,
right.
And I think they may look at it as, you know what, let's just make sure he's good for the future and not push it. Ryan Johansson had to have surgery, so you knew what that was going to be. Duchesne, sounds like a hand.
Week to week, we've been told now.
Week to week probably means weeks. Is generally what that is. So I just think there's some of these guys that they look at of like, yeah, we'd love to have you, but the kids are carrying the water and they're playing well. Now Parsonen's one that I'm kind of concerned about. I want to see him back in there with these young guys, but maybe it's just like, hey, if we were 2 points out of a playoff spot, this is a different conversation, potentially. It just depends on what the injury is.
Yeah, and I think I think if you do it correctly, you're sort of evaluating these youngsters in a different way. If you say to them, "Look, you're our group. You're close to the playoff. Go play." And how are they competing? How do they handle the pressure? Particularly, like Toronto, they got off to a terrible start. They looked like they were going to get run out of the building like they did against Seattle, and they dug in and they made a game of it. I think that the disappointing things when you look at the 7-0 loss to the Rangers recently, the 7-2 loss to the Kraken on Saturday, there are games that are getting away from them more so than we've typically seen. But you're finding out how badly these guys want to compete, how willing they are to try and get into the playoffs, and I think there probably is. I mean, let's face it. This team last year barely got into the playoffs and was uncompetitive when it got there. So if Matt Duchesne and Philip Forsberg and Roman Josi and Ryan Johansson don't play again this year, like, okay, this team's not going to make a deep run in the playoffs. Not with Colorado, not with Minnesota the way they're playing right now. Like that's not going to happen. So it sort of makes sense to just say we're pushing you guys off to the side. This is all about evaluation right now, and I like the group from a size perspective. Parsonen, when he's out there, is a big guy. Smith is a bigger guy. Glass is a bigger guy. These are, this has been Nashville's history has largely been smaller, faster, particularly on defense. Foote is a big body addition on defense. I like the fact that this team is getting bigger, but looking, they're not just stationary big guys. Like these are guys who can move and can play the game, and I think I do think there is an opportunity to really get a sense of what and who you have here and what you want it to be going forward.
Yeah, I agree. And speaking of evaluation, something that we haven't brought up in a while because of this run is John Hines. And, Barry Trotz is having an opportunity, before he officially takes the job to get to know the head coach. I don't know how much they knew each other. I know John has said that they, obviously had crossed paths of playing against one another, but they've never worked together. And so I think it's important to have that time for Barry to evaluate what he wants to do at that position. I believe John would have one more year on the contract because they had extended him for this year, and I think it was a 2-year extension, if I'm not mistaken. So I think there's 1 year. I'd have to look that up. But, obviously Barry's going to have the say in what happens at that position. Does he covet Carl Taylor like the organization does and think that, okay, Carl Taylor's ready to be an NHL head coach? I thought he was going to be an NHL coach 2 years ago. I'm surprised that he isn't by now. And so does he think, okay, that's a guy that I think we need to have as our head coach to develop these players at this level? Or they're going to try and keep him in where he is to develop the guys that have yet to come up? Or is there somebody else that is in his pipeline that he knows that he would be more comfortable with as the head coach? I'll say this, though, about John Hines. For a lot of people that were done with him, and there's people that are still done with him, and they're ready to move on, I think he has made a very, very good argument to get another year with what has happened since the trade deadline.
I'm not that strong on him. There's been too many times that I wonder, like, what's he doing? Like, this game's going poorly. What's he doing to shake things up? Or what's, now we don't see him in the locker room. Maybe he's peeling the paint in the locker room,
right,
in between periods, but you don't see him you don't see him shuffling a lot of lines a whole lot. Like he sort of trusts the guys who he thinks should do something to eventually do it, to the point that I think those guys get a little too comfortable. I'd like to see him make guys more uncomfortable more often. And that's just my I have not covered the team really much or at all since John's been the head coach. I don't see him in press conferences or press settings every day. I don't have a good feel for what that's like either. So maybe I'm missing something there. But just like I said, Barry was very clear when he left here. It was obvious that players that he liked and he was able to get them and it worked out. He's always been the same way with head coaches, particularly when he was a young coach. There were guys in this league who he really liked and admired. Three who come to mind immediately are Ken Hitchcock, Lindy Ruff, Joel Quenneville. Those were guys that he really liked and would built relationships with and would talk to. And Barry's not one. He wasn't one of those guys who would be friendly to everybody just because. I mean, there were coaches he didn't like either. So he'll clearly have an opinion on John Hines one way or the other. What that is, I don't know, but it's the same. I think it's very much the same sort of thing. He knows exactly what he wants in a coach, and that'll be it'll be up to those two guys to have that conversation sometime after the season. We'll see what happens, and maybe his out is, look, John Hines, we like you, and we think you've done a good job this year, but we love Carl Taylor, and if we don't give him this chance, somebody's going to hire him away, and we just don't want that to happen. Maybe that's the easy way out for everybody. But John Hines has been head coach 2 different teams now. He'll get another chance. That's the way this league works. Mm-hmm. If he's not Nashville's coach going forward,
I think the hard thing to figure out is, because this, you can connect dots. If Lane Lambert wasn't the head coach of the New York Islanders, I would sit here and go, well, he's going to be the head coach of the Nashville Predators.
I would say the exact same thing.
Like it'd be pretty easy to connect that dot. But he got his chance, and so I don't see him leaving that opportunity anytime soon. And so there's not really another, Brent Peterson's retired. Peter Horachek's a scout now. And now obviously that could change, but you try and connect some of those dots. Carl Taylor makes the most sense because they have all these young guys that are going to be on the team next year that he's familiar with and can continue to develop. So that's kind of why, I go that route. But look, I don't know what he thinks about Dan Hinote. Dan Hinote's a guy that, is mentioned as one day being a head coach. I don't know if he's quite there yet, but it's certainly going to be interesting to see how that evaluation goes.
Yeah, and keep this in mind when you talk about Carl Taylor too. As a head coach, Barry brought Peter Horacek up from Milwaukee to be his assistant. He brought Lane Lambert up from Milwaukee to be his assistant. Barry is willing to acknowledge a good AHL coach as somebody who can be effective in the NHL.
Because he got that.
And because he got that chance. That's exactly right. I think that probably is a big part of his thinking at this point. Like, Barry Trotz is one of the winningest coaches in NHL history. Like, who would have
Hall of Famer?
I mean, God bless him. He was Nashville's first coach. Like you never would have thought that would happen. Not because he wasn't a good coach, but it just seemed unthinkable at that time where the franchise was and what it was trying to do for him to have evolved and become just as successful and accomplished as he is in this game.
He's David Beauclair. I'm Chase McCabe in today for Jared Stillman. Coming up next, we'll talk a little stadium, the Titans Stadium. There's a report of when it might open. We'll discuss that coming up next here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Want a chance to win tickets to an upcoming Preds game?
Yes.
Tune in to Robbie and Rexrode every weekday Preds game day at 8:45 for Preds Pick to Click. Guess a goal scorer and win.
I'll take Roman Yossi.
Matt Duchene.
Pick to Click is brought to you by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. Visit tjandersonhomes.com to see why they are referred so often. And by Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas. Download their app today.
Preds Pick to Click.
We are 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Attention all fire and safety line experts. Middle Tennessee's fastest growing fire protection company is looking for experienced service technicians, designers, and sprinkler system experts like you. Tired of working for a large corporate employer? Work for a company where you're more than just a number. Jarrett Fire Protection is owned and operated by Nashville natives and wants to invite you to grow with their amazing team.
Hi, I'm Jason Jarrett, owner of Jarrett Companies. I'm looking to hire experienced sprinkler experts and will offer a sign-on bonus of up to $5,000 for certified professionals. In addition to our great benefits that include a 401k match, PTO, and top pay with annual bonuses, we will also provide you with the top-of-the-line tools, trucks, and equipment that you need to grow your career. Our customer base is large and business is booming with many opportunities for advancement. Give us a call or go online to jarrettfire.com and apply today to become a member of our family and protect our community. That's JARRETT fire.com. Jarrett Companies, where we are above and beyond industry standards.
Do you have a VA loan? In this housing market, homeowners with VA loans have access to a ton of instant cash. Hey, Willie Donick here. Do you need cash to pay off credit cards and other high-interest loans? How does a check for 80 or 90 grand sound right now? Loan Pronto is helping veterans every day get the money they need with a quick and easy zero-cost cash-out refi with zero closing costs. With a VA loan, it's really cool because you can access up to 100% of your home's value. That's 100%. Use that money to pay off credit cards, home equity lines, car loan. Consolidate all your payments into one check per month and close in 2 weeks. Most homeowners who do this end up cutting their overall monthly payments by $800. And Loan Pronto's all-digital process makes it fast and easy. They're doing loans with super low APRs, and they love working with veterans. Call now. See what your options are. Call Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Hey, it's Jared from my official sportsbook app, the FanDuel Sportsbook app. The tournament is heating up, and there's no better place to get in on all the action than America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Just go to FanDuel.com/JGM and sign up to claim your no-sweat first bet. Then you can wager on everything from the money line to point spreads to which team will be cutting down the nets. I think it'll be Connecticut who will be cutting down the nets in the end. all in an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So don't miss your shot at a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/JGM to sign up. Make every moment more with FanDuel. 21 and older and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager. Only $10 first deposit required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 14 days and restrictions do apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
This is Buster Olney, host of the Baseball Tonight podcast, inviting you to join us. We go 3 days a week with great guests from players such as Mike Trout and Carlos Correa, managers like Dusty Baker and Dave Roberts, general managers like Brian Cashman and Alex Anthopoulos, and our regulars, Tim Kirkchin, Sarah Langs, Jeff Pass, and Carl Ravitch. Baseball is a great fishbowl of humanity, and we go big game fishing every day. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
When you want live and local.
If they were just better at the offensive line.
You can be a contender in the AFC again.
They've had more winning seasons than not. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game has you covered. Looking for some national programming?
Why do I want to get a running back like that 5 more years?
The AFC now is so deep at quarterback.
Check out 94.9 The Fan. Nashville's home for all things sports is 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and 94.9 The Fan.
Hey, Nashville, this is Paul Feinbaum, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Join 102.5 The Game and the Preds Energy team at the Rusty Nail in Hermitage on Monday, April 3rd for the Preds Road Watch Party as your Nashville Predators take on the Dallas Stars. Enjoy $3 two-lane beer drafts, a great local atmosphere with a large outdoor patio and volleyball courts. Plus, you can try some of their great food, especially the wings. That's 102.5 The Game and the Preds Energy team at the Rusty Nail on Monday, April 3rd. We will see you there. Chase McCabe, David Beauclair in today for Jared Stillman. He's out the rest of the week, and we'll be back on Monday. And last night, David, I saw a report Paul Kaharski of paulkaharski.com had that the new Titan Stadium looks like it's going to be 2027 before it's able to open. It was originally thought 2026, still going through the legislative process to get approved. That could come late April, but the window to get it ready for 2026 has passed. So I guess it appears 4 more years at Nissan Stadium, and that's it.
Yeah, not surprising at all. I mean, Burke Nihill had said from day one that 2026 was a quote unquote aggressive timeline, and he had said. I think in one of the first times he talked to the local media about this, that if everything went as swimmingly as possible, they could have all the I's dotted, T's crossed, everything signed by the end of the first quarter of 2023, and then start to break ground later this year. This week is the end of the first quarter of 2023. That process is not done. I think if Geodis Park teaches us anything, it's that slower is probably better in these sorts of things. And
sure.
And if nothing else, this will give everybody one more season without all the parking headaches that are going to accompany a construction of one stadium while another stadium is still fully operational.
Yeah, and I mean, look, parking is a hard thing everywhere. You know, it's funny. I was with the same buddy that was at the Preds game with me the other day. I used to go with him back in college, and we parked in this lot behind the arena. There's a convention center there now, but it used to be very easy. I would pay $3 to go park at a Preds game. And now you're lucky to get under 20.
Yeah, absolutely. One of our favorite things at the Beauclair household is you're watching a game on TV. There's a blimp shot or a drone shot or whatever, and Tammy Beauclair has done this for years. She'll go, where does everybody park? Because there's so few stadiums that there's actual parking around the stadium. So Nashville's not going to be unique in this regard. And like in many other instances, Nashville's going to be better off than a lot of other places still. You know, the ability to park downtown and walk over the bridge is you could do a lot worse than that, and there will be there will be remote lots with shuttles and things. We know that'll and it's probably good that the Titans will have more time to sort out the logistics of all of that too, and see how this will work. But that first preseason game of 2024. There's going to be some hand wringing and some complaining. I mean, there's just no way around it. It's going to happen. But I absolutely think from both on the front end and when you're talking about the finished project, a little more time can't hurt. I mean, I know everybody wants the shiny new thing. Let's get this thing going. Let's get WrestleMania here. Let's get NCAA Final Four here. Let's get involved in the expanded college football playoffs. Let's get the Super Bowl here. All of that, and that's coming. That's coming. But it's just we're all just going to have to wait a little bit longer, apparently.
Well, I made the joke when all this stadium talk started that. What are they going to do? Bring in barges and park everybody on the river? I mean, that's kind of what it feels like.
There's probably worse ideas than that, quite honestly.
Somebody listening right now might go, "That's not a bad idea." Yeah. We might have to do that. Reopen the pedestrian bridges, for cars and park them on that. But it's something that needs to be done. I grew up here. I remember all the NFL yes signs in everybody's yard, and them building that stadium, and it was a sweetheart deal for Bud Adams. It was fine for Nashville in 1998, 1999. It's not fine for Nashville in 2023, and that's why people that are going, it's not that old. Well, it's shown. I mean, it's not that old, but it was built on the cheap. That it's eventually going to just cost way more to keep that one going than it would be a new stadium. Plus, like you mentioned, all the events that are going to come with an enclosed facility. I can tell you right now, WrestleMania will be here 2028.
Yeah,
that's when they will be here. They will be here a year. After that first football season, they'll be here.
And for people who say the stadium's not that old, average stadium life is 30 years, basically, and this one will get 28 years when all is said and done. Or 27 years, I guess. They're going to come close. And
when's the lease up? Is it 20? It's 27, isn't it? Isn't that when it was up, or is it a little longer?
That's a good question. It's been a while since.
I feel like it's right around that.
Yeah, it's so that's yeah. Well, it would I guess it would be. No, it would be. Yeah, I don't remember, but anyway, like for a stadium that. Who knew? Like when this whole process started too, like Burke Nihill said that they found there was too much there's too much concrete, not enough steel in the construction, and in order to update all of that, would have been cost prohibitive, and ultimately that's how we have landed to where we are. But so for a stadium that had these shortcomings, I guess it's been. It's done its job. And to your point, like it got the NFL franchise here. I'm one. You can argue with me on this, but given my profession and whatnot, I'm a big believer in the notion that pro sports changes the perception of your city.
Oh, no doubt.
And what the Titans did, particularly in 99, 2000 through 2003, getting out of the gates as quickly as they did in that stadium and having rebranded and all of that, it absolutely was a factor in what we see now when you look at all the construction and all the booming population and what have you in this town. It's I don't know exactly how you quantify it, but I know that it was part of the it was part of all of what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, I don't think any of these things happen without the Titans and the Predators coming to town, and then conversely Nashville SC joins them. Who knows with baseball?
With baseball, exactly.
If that
feels
happens,
it feels like that's going to happen. It seemed unthinkable not that long ago, but the way this town operates, the people involved in that project, it just seems like that's inevitable at this point. I don't know how long it's going to take, but it feels like it's coming.
Yeah, and I feel like before it's all said and done, the state of Tennessee will have all 5 major sports, with the Grizzlies being in Memphis.
Yep.
So I think that would be really cool if that were to happen. Coming up next, we get back into the NFL as there are some rule changes that have come out of the owners' meetings that we will take a look at. We'll do that. Coming up next is Stillman and Company, Chase McCabe, David Beauclair in for Jared today, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
I've been telling you about Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical for years, and that's because Hiller has been taking great care of my home since I got into the home ownership business, and they can do the same for you. And let them do that. Sometimes replacing equipment in your home can be overlooked until something breaks, but there are actually big problems that can come from old, outdated HVAC systems. Older systems have higher repair costs and require more maintenance and will result in higher utility bills. And even worse, they can break down when you need them the most. Don't let that happen. This month during Hiller's Vintage Showdown, they're giving away a free HVAC system to the owner of the oldest unit. It's easy to enter. Just go online to happyhiller.com and submit your picture of your old unit. Plus, everybody wins with trade-in credits and 0% interest financing for up to 48 months on replacements. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. My guys, proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. Hiller, call the Happy Face Truck today.
Want the latest on college football and Nashville sports?
They can be a fully formed model of what they're going to be offensively moving forward.
Join Outkick 360's Chad Withrow every Friday at 5 with Stillman and Company.
You don't know what's going to happen with the roster or the team.
He'll bring opinions and charisma for a full half hour every week.
This is a good lesson about sports and what we think and what actually happens.
Chad Withrow on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
20 years ago, when Genesis Diamonds came to Nashville, this was one of the most expensive cities in America for diamond jewelry. Our radical approach and no middleman pricing changed that forever. And now we're doing it again, this time with lab-grown diamonds. We were shocked to find out what the other mall stores and the other big radio advertisers were charging. They sell their platinum 4-carat VS2 lab-grown earrings for $15,720. We sell them for $6,900. Their 3.08 carat lab-grown round diamond with G-Color VS2 clarity is $10,045. We sell it for $5,900. Looks like they might be going back to the old ways. If they're charging this much on lab-grown diamonds, kind of makes you wonder what else they're selling at the same outrageous markup. Nashville, we are not going backwards. At Genesis Diamonds, our non-commissioned trusted advisors are here to give you all the information with details you can trust and prices you can count on. Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Finding great people to hire is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's pretty difficult, right? Well, ZipRecruiter has mastered finding a needle in a haystack, so they take it to the next level. They make hiring so simple that it's like finding a needle in a needle stack. And that's why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Here's what it's like to use ZipRecruiter. They have so many qualified candidates that it's easier to find the right ones for your roles. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's a lot of needles. So how do they do it? ZipRecruiter's powerful technology sends you candidates who are a great match for your job, and you can even invite your top choices to apply. So if you want less hay and more needles, head to ZipRecruiter.
And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
The British invasion is coming. Queen plus Adam Lambert, the Rhapsody Tour. Brian May, Roger Taylor, plus Adam Lambert, performing rock's greatest anthems, live in Nashville. Bridgestone Arena, October 25th. Get tickets this Friday at 10 a.m. at livenation.com. For more, visit queenonline.com.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Thinking about gas mileage. You know, changing your oil with a full synthetic oil like Valvoline Advanced can help your engine get more miles. Right now, you can get 5 quarts with an STP Extended Life oil filter for only $37.99. Get started on your next job today with the parts you need when you need them at AutoZone or AutoZone.com.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
A show that lives and breathes sports.
Focus in, focus in, focus in.
From the SEC.
Credit to the Alabamas, the Georgias, and the Ohio States of the world.
To the Preds.
They've been in a lot of really tight games, but they're not winning enough of them.
To the Titans.
He's talking about what this franchise has built over the years.
Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace.
What is this? Check it out.
Weekdays from 11 to 2 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Back here, Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Chase McCabe, David Beauclair with you in for Jared Stillman today. The NFL owners meetings going on right now in Phoenix as they've made some rule changes, but I did want to pass this along because this came out earlier. But there's a Josh Harris Mitchell Rails group which now includes Magic Johnson, officially has submitted a fully financed bid that meets Dan Snyder's $6 billion asking price for the Washington Commanders. If accepted, the deal would break the previous record sale for a franchise set last August when a group led by Walmart heir Rob Walton bought the Denver Broncos for $4.65 billion. There's also a second group that has come in with a fully funded $6 billion offer for the Commanders. So something could get done on the Washington Football Club Commanders here relatively soon, which means no more Dan Snyder.
That'll be sad, won't it?
I'm sure he'll get it. I'm sure he'll get a parade. But it's interesting when you look at the value of some of these teams and what the Broncos went for, and now what the Commanders could potentially go for. What I'm trying to think of other teams that would be in a position that they might be interested in selling, and what the value might be for them. Obviously, it always comes up every few years about the Titans if this team is or is not for sale. But I know I'd pay attention to with some of these values. I mean, if Dan Snyder gets $6 billion to go away, I'm glad he's going away, but dang.
You could make the argument that Amy Adams Strunk is doing a lot of what she's doing for this franchise, including helping build the new stadium. It's like putting $20,000 in your house so you could charge another $50,000 or whatever on the market,
so
or whatever.
You can flip it.
But by all accounts, she's selling off, family treasures and what, like her father's artwork and other sorts, or whatever she's doing to help. She's making personal sacrifices,
right,
to help fund this stadium, which to me does not speak to I'm doing this to get rid of it.
Sure.
To me it's very much she's carrying on her father's legacy. She's setting up the next generation to hold on to it. That's one of the underrated things, because you saw this in Denver, for example. You referenced Denver. When Pat Bolin died, the means were not in place for his family basically to keep that franchise. They almost had no choice but to sell it. Bud Adams had it set up so that the money and everything was there to keep set up in a way to keep the team in the family, and so I would assume Amy Adams Strunk has done or is doing the same sorts of things to assure that. I mean, it's like to your point, it has been reported. There's a certain reporter I don't know if he's even with CBS Sports anymore. I don't see his stuff, I don't think, but who swore one day he was going to be right that the Titans were for sale.
Jason Lockenfora.
I didn't even want to mention his name. He was. I mean, how many times did that guy report
John
that
Bon Jovi?
That Peyton was going to own the team at one point. It was it got to be humorous. And Steve
Peyton Manning and Fred Smith.
Yeah, because it always made me laugh. Like Steve Underwood, former chief counsel, CEO, everything, Mr. Everything for this franchise. It's funny. As a lawyer, Steve always chose his words very carefully.
Yeah.
And how many times he stood up in front of cameras, microphones, one-on-one interviews, whatever, and he said, "This team is not being unequivocally."
This team is not for sale.
It's just and the national media, La Confora in particular, just would not believe him.
Yep.
It was hilarious, and when he said it in those terms, I never doubted him because he was rarely that clear, by design about anything.
So the NFL approved some rule changes and bylaws changes, and we'll get to these a little bit later too. Players can now wear number 0, so the number 0 is back. I believe 0 and 00 was allowed in the 70s. Hadn't been around in a while.
The great Jim Otto,
the
Raiders immediately comes to mind.
Yeah, because I asked you during the break, I was like, wasn't there a Raider that wore 00? And you said, yeah, Jim Otto. So they have approved that. One that kind of got my attention that I was curious about this, Houston submitted this. Amends Rule 15, Section 1, Article 2 to expand the replay official's jurisdiction to allow for review on a failed 4th down attempt. So does that mean that it's like a fumble? They'll automatically look at it instead of you having to challenge?
It sounds like it, yeah.
I like that.
If so, the question that comes to mind is why only a failed attempt?
Yeah, why not?
I mean, a successful attempt can be just as close as a failed attempt. I'd be curious about that as to why it's listed as only a failed attempt. Unless, is there some reasoning that you want a coach to have to challenge if it's – I don't know. That'll be
the competition
question.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. The competition committee has put one in to prevent the offense from benefiting by an extension of the half.
Sorry to cut you off, but I know why. A failed 4th down is a change of possession, much like a turnover. I bet that's the reason.
So that's probably a good point.
Yeah.
So they just put it in that. The competition committee put in to prevent the offense from benefiting by an extension of the half as a result of their foul. So if there's a stoppage or what have you, I mean, I know a defensive foul, obviously you get the untimed down, but that I think that's an interesting one. And then there was a couple approved resolution summary. This one. By Los Angeles Chargers to provide greater clarity as to a player's availability for a game. So does that mean
we're doing away with doubtful and questionable?
Vrabel's going to hate that.
We're going in or out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what that means, and I think we both know why that's going in. A rule like that where it's got to be cut and dry for what has taken off over the last few years and become legal. I think that has a lot to do with the sports books wanting information.
Yep.
I knew that was coming.
Yep.
A bunch of teams put this in as well, and you mentioned this earlier, to establish one preseason roster reduction date and related procedure. So there will be one round of cuts, go from 90 to 53, and that's
90 to 53, which will make the final preseason game that much less interesting or more interesting, depending on how much you like the bottom half of the training camp rosters, because that's that's an extra 10 guys or so that or maybe 15 guys that will have an opportunity to play in that game that wouldn't have in the last couple of years.
Yeah. We'll look at a couple more of these later, but coming up next, Trevor Maddich, ESPN college football analyst. We'll talk to him. We'll throw some of these at him because I'm sure he's interested in these. That's all coming up next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Every day we are live and local.
Are you going to pay $20.2 million for someone who's struggling this much to stay healthy?
And your source for Nashville sports.
The players got to play better, and they're the ones actually out on the court, and they got to execute.
We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
This week's Nashville's best deal is the all-new Hot Works Goodlettsville off Long Hollow Pike. Right now, join for just $39 in time for their grand opening April 1st. That's $60 off at thegamenashville.com/deals. Hot Works offers 24/7 infrared fitness in 15 and 30-minute virtually led sauna sessions. Get more workout in less time at Hot Works. And right now, save $60 on enrollment at thegamenashville.com/deals.
Willie Donick here for Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. The official 2022 stats are in, and the Pella brand is rated #1 by Nashville homeowners for windows and doors. One reason, Nashville homeowners selected Pella Windows #1 for the highest quality craftsmanship. Another key stat, Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville is also rated #1 for the brand that stands behind their product. If you need new doors or windows, the choice is clear. Choose the experts at Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Go to PellaofNashville.com.
Middle Tennessee, you can count on an award-winning service team for all your home maintenance and improvement needs. Lee Company, we're A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau and trusted by thousands of homeowners in our community. Our team is ready to assist with all your home maintenance projects, heating and air conditioning, plumbing, electrical, appliance service, and more. Experience the convenience of calling one phone number for all your home maintenance needs. Call Lee Company today at 615-567-1000 or visit leecompany.com.
This week at the Electronic Express Markdown Mania event, get instant savings of up to 40% off in every department, including all 4K TVs, laptops and tablets, housewares, gaming consoles, speakers, and more. At Electronic Express, we have up to 50% off all your appliance needs in stock and ready to deliver. Plus, buy now, pay later with up to 3 years free financing. Shop the Markdown Mania sales event at Electronic Express. We make it happen.
Now's the time to get a great deal on select Kubota compact tractors, rated #1 in durability and owner experience. They're designed for easy operation and feature performance-matched attachments. Right now, put 0 down and get 0% APR for up to 72 months, plus save up to $800 on select equipment. Now through June 30th. See us or go to KubotaUSA.com for full disclaimer.
Visit Coleman Tractor Company, your local Kubota dealer in Clarksville, Nashville, Paris, and White House today.
Wait, aren't these all charitable donations?
At Magda's Tax Prep, every person counts.
I'd rather not have to file for an extension.
She needs new auditors to maximize returns on her family time.
On itemized deductions. Hey, can someone help with these 1099s?
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Our hiring platform instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Your Game Center update.
The Nashville Predators are back in action tonight up in Boston to take on the Bruins. The team announced today that they have recalled forward Michael McCarron and defenseman Kevin Gravel from AHL Milwaukee. Captain Roman Josi was on the ice for morning skate in a non-contact jersey and will not play tonight. Puck drop for Nashville versus Boston is set for 6 with pregame starting at 5 right here on the Preds Radio Network. The NFL owners' meetings are currently taking place out in Arizona. Titans head coach Mike Vrabel was there speaking to the media about some of the recent signings, including offensive tackle Andre Dillard.
Dillard, is a player that we feel like his best football is in front of him with a new opportunity. Very skilled pass protector, which is something that we have to improve on. We have to be able to protect our quarterback. Bad things happen. We've all seen it. We've always talked about it. So I was excited to be able to add him.
The NFL has approved some rule changes at the owners' meetings for this upcoming season, including players being able to wear the number 0. I'm Ian Safar for 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 1025 and 106.3.
A gunny performance. Do your job.
And the Tigers regain the lead. The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff. You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman, presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Chase McCabe, David Beauclair in for Jared today here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. And as we do, usually at 4:30, but pushing him up, we say hello to Trevor Mattich, ESPN college football analyst, who is on the line with us, and always enjoy having Trevor. He is presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, where win experience matters. Trev, what's up?
Hey, Chase, I'm good, man. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic. Obviously, it's been a tough couple days here in our city, and thoughts and prayers continue to be with the Covenant School and everybody affected. But we're getting along.
Yeah, it's what a terrible tragedy, and it's interesting to me to look at things like this that happen and the role that sports can play in the greater context of it. Not that sports is anywhere close to what we're seeing there, but I go back to Virginia Tech and the shooting there that happened a number of years ago. And it was interesting to me the way that the student body at Virginia Tech naturally gravitated to the football program as kind of a town center, as kind of the place where we can all come together regardless of, our politics or what we look like, and we can grieve and we can heal and we can be one in this context. And it was just fascinating to me. I don't know what's going to happen here. I can't begin to say what should happen because I can't even begin to relate to the grief that the parents and loved ones of these people that were lost must be feeling now. But it makes me think of the potential of sports as a unifying force when things happen, and it just happens naturally. Nobody says, "Hey, let's go rally around the football team." It's just a place that people tend to go sometimes.
Yeah, no, and I think you make a really good point because it's almost like and I don't like using the word escape, but I think it's part of the healing process. That's probably the best way. I mean, I remember after 9/11 and watching the documentaries on the Giants and the Jets and like what they wanted to do, and it was the right move to take the week off, but once everything came back, it was kind of like this is how everybody can rally and start to heal. And the Predators aren't here tonight; they're in Boston, but I think there'll be people watching the game and trying to to take it in and just heal that way. But I think you make a really good point, Trev, on sports can bring everybody together.
Yeah, and again, I'm not in any way suggesting that hey, let's rally around sports and all as well. Sure. That's not the way it is at all. It's just that it's just the potential for what sports can be at the highest level.
And I think it's the ritual of it that it gets you back to a sense of normalcy. That it's one of those steps. It's one part of your day or your week or your weekend or whatever that kind of comes and goes as normal. That helps you sort of move back to that sense of normalcy.
Yeah, I think it's something that a lot of people share together. And it's a place where people of disparate locations and demographics and educational and economic levels, et cetera, come together for 3 hours and they're family, right? And I think that sense of family is much needed in times like this when, there's such terrible tragedy to have to somehow work through.
Talking with Trevor Mattich, ESPN college football analyst. So I know that Jared has asked you quite a bit about the quarterbacks in this year's draft, but I'm going to take it a little different in that I'll put Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud out of it because I feel like they're going 1-2. But I'll take the group of Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, and even throw Hendon Hooker into it. And if the Titans were to either take somebody at 11 or move back, which is likely where they would see Hendon Hooker, how would you rank those guys, though, as NFL prospects, 1 to 3?
In terms of getting rid of Stroud and Young, you say?
Yeah, just between Levis, Richardson, and Hooker.
Yeah, I would say Hooker number 1.
Okay.
Because in college he was the most accurate consistently, even though he was required to throw the ball deep down the field so often. A lot of times you'll have a 70% completion percentage on a quarterback, but when you watch the tape, you see that most of his throws are at or behind the line of scrimmage. So, yay, but Hooker had to air it out a lot, and he was still dropping dimes deep down the field and still completed almost 70% this year, I believe. That accuracy is important. I know that Coach Mike Vrabel, the Titans head coach, was asked about what he values in a quarterback, and his order of preference was leadership, toughness, and accuracy. Accuracy number 3. And I'm not a head coach. I can't criticize him, but I can say that I don't get it. If your first 2 are leadership and wasn't there consistently enough on an NFL level. And so, but leadership and toughness were off the charts, right? To me, accuracy is the price of admission. Now, if you don't have good leadership and you're not tough, if you're soft but you're accurate, I don't think the accuracy can overcome the other 2. But to me, if you don't have accuracy, I can't use you. I don't care what else you're doing. So I think Hendon Hooker has the best potential for NFL accuracy of those 3. The other 2, Will Levis has an incredibly strong arm, so that doesn't impress me at all. What impresses me is, can he put the ball where it needs to be on the right trajectory in the right moment? Not can he throw it through a brick wall, right? And then Anthony Richardson hasn't played a lot of football. Only 1 year as a starter in college, but his completion percentage at Florida last year was 53.8%. It was just abysmal in comparison to other Power 5 quarterbacks. And that was with the team game planning for him to where he would only look at basically half the field a lot of times. And if he doesn't see a throw that he likes, he takes off running. Well, that throw that he likes, that should be pretty well open, and it should be a pretty high percentage throw for the guy, but he still only completed around 54% of his passes, and that worries me because what happens a lot in high school is you take the best athlete and you put him at quarterback. Then the guy starts to think he's a quarterback. And Anthony Richardson may be a quarterback. He may be an NFL quarterback. Maybe NFL coaching with his footwork and all the rest of it will tighten that stuff up, and he'll be good to go. But I'll tell you this, if he had been a linebacker or an H-back, we'd be talking about him as a high first-round draft choice now. I mean, dude is 6'4", 244. He ran a 4.43 40. He was setting records or near records with the broad jump and the vertical at the combine. And there's so many things that the guy can do. What he can't do right now, he hasn't proven it, is throw accurately with any consistency. And so for me, if I'm drafting Anthony Richardson, I'm thinking right now the best possibility for him to be a first-round caliber contributor would be to treat him like the Saints treat Taysom Hill, where you don't expect him to be your starting quarterback. He's a backup quarterback, but you put him in an H-back, you put him in a receiver, you put him in packages at quarterback, all kinds of different things where you can maximize his ability without the ball in his hand, much less with the ball in his hand. And you put it all together, and he can be a fantastic NFL player. I don't know if he wants to do that, but until he gets his accuracy in a reliable place, he's at a distant third for me at the quarterback position.
Are NFL teams, though, are many NFL teams still just enamored by those combine numbers and things you were talking about? I mean, is it that shiny thing that you just can't take your eyes off of the shelf, that somebody's going to make a move on him too early, you think?
It's, I think, a certain arrogance in coaching, that they think that they can fix some clear fundamental deficiencies. And so, yeah, the combine stuff is off the charts. I mean, you look at Justin Fields at Chicago. He is a very good runner. He's got a lot of work to do as a passer, although, in fairness to him, his offensive line and receiving core were abysmal since he's been a Chicago Bear. So he hasn't had the help that he needs to have. But he was a much better, in my opinion, thrower at Ohio State than Anthony Richardson was at Florida. much better. And yet he still has a long way to go to be a quality NFL passer. This is Justin Fields, who's now with the Chicago Bears, that we're talking about. But I think that the Bears loved his athletic ability and figured that they could coach him up to where he could, you could use the talent that he has and turn it into skill. And that's what I think teams will do. They'll look at Anthony Richardson and say, yeah, we look at his athletic ability. We can, how amazing he'll be when he runs the ball and he scrambles and how he forces the defense to adjust to that and slows down the pass rush because they can't let him out of the pocket. And we can do stuff with that. And they think that they can then turn around and fix the thing that hasn't been fixed yet. Now, in fairness to Richardson, once again, he hasn't played a lot of football. Only 1 year as a starter at Florida. So maybe those things are all fixable. But if you're going to take a guy, in the top 10 picks, you want a guy that you have a very high confidence that will be able to come in at the position you draft him, and he will be an impact player for you. And I think it is a leap of faith to suggest that Anthony Richardson will definitely be an impact player.
He's Trevor Maddich, ESPN college football analyst, joining us here on Stillman and Company, presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics. When experience matters. We'll have more with Trevor coming up next here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Hey, it's Jared from my official sportsbook app, the FanDuel Sportsbook app. The tournament is headed down to the final stretch, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a no-sweat bet up to $1,000. That's $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Just go to FanDuel.com/JGM and sign up today to claim your no-sweat first bet. Then you can wager on everything from the money line to point spreads to which team will be cutting down the nets. I feel very comfortable about UConn. They look like the best team, and I told you that on Friday after what they did to Arkansas. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So don't miss your shot at a no-sweat bet up to $1,000 at FanDuel.com/JGM to sign up. Make every moment more with FanDuel. 21 and older and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager. Only $10 deposit required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line 1-800-889-9789.
Every Wednesday at noon.
That fits the mentality of what they're going to do.
Outkick 360's Jonathan Hutton joins Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace to talk all things Titans and NFL.
Much more creative in how you go about calling certain plays.
He's got opinions and insights on the two-tone blue.
That doesn't mean that you can't have great or don't need great quarterback play.
Catch Hutton every Wednesday at noon on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Houston Clinic Orthopedics wants to thank their patients for voting them the #1 orthopedic practice in the Nashville Scene Poll for 3 years in a row. Their physicians specialize in spine, joint replacement, knee, hip, upper extremity, and other orthopedic conditions. At Houston Clinic Orthopedics, they adhere to all CDC guidelines for the patient's and staff safety. To experience world-class orthopedic care and see a list of all physicians, visit their website at tn.houston.com and book your appointment online today.
The team at Mercedes-Benz of Music City have done it again. Here's Edwin Vickery to explain.
4-time recipient of Best of the Best. Less than 10% of the dealers in the country receive this award. How did you do it? We say culture eats strategy for lunch, because we can strategize all we want, but unless you have the right culture and chemistry in the dealership, it will not work.
Live the dream at Mercedes-Benz of Music City, mbofmc.com.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Hey, Willie Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days. And a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. It's that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Lowe's MVP's bonus days are back for pros. Right now, buy a DeWalt 20-volt Max Power Stack Battery 2-pack at $199 and get a select DeWalt Bear tool free. Plus, earn 3 times the bonus points on all Metabo HPT tools and products. Shop even more savings and bonus points offers during MVP's bonus days at Lowe's. Bonus points calculated before taxes and fees after applicable discounts, if any. Valid 3/20 through 3/31. Subject to change. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. Discount taken at time of purchase. Visit Lowes.com/MVP's bonus points for details.
Want to see our smiling faces? You can watch us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live.
We are good to go.
Presented by Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas. You're listening to Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Chase McCabe, David Beauclair in for Jared Stillman today. I'll be in the rest of the week. Continuing our conversation with Trevor Maddich, ESPN, presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. And Trevor, we were just talking about the quarterbacks, and Hendon Hooker obviously came up. Mike Tannenbaum, former GM, now your colleague at ESPN, did his mock draft. He has Hendon Hooker 5th overall to Seattle. Now, I kind of said when I was asking you the question that I thought the Titans would have to move back, and that's where they would probably take Hendon Hooker, but he thinks he's a top 5 pick. Do you have that much faith in Hendon Hooker, and could the Titans take him at 11?
I think Hendon Hooker, if it weren't for the ACL, would be talked about as one of the top quarterbacks. I think the ACL is a problem, and then it combines with his age, being 26 when the season's or during the season next year or this coming season. Really, he may be back and able to play from the very beginning of the season with his ACL, but it's more likely that whoever drafts him will give him a year, so that really his real rookie year will be at the age of 27. But I think today we've seen quarterbacks that have been able to take care of their body in such a way that they play deep into their 30s. And therefore, I don't really think that's going to be an issue with Hendon Hooker. In some ways, it's an advantage because he's an older guy with more maturity. From a pure talent and production standpoint, I think yes. Now, outside of his age and his injury, his knee injury, I think the case against him is that his best year was last year at Tennessee in an offense that people call a system offense, that went at a super high tempo, which forced defenses to simplify coverage, and he got to throw the ball to open guys a fair amount. And to me, I don't like it when people denigrate a quarterback by saying he's a system guy. Every quarterback has a system. Every quarterback runs a system. Some are more complicated than others. Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher, their head coach, famously has asked so much of a quarterback that he hasn't really had a guy out there that's been able to run it well since he was at Florida State with Jameis Winston. So there's that. But at the same time, even though you could make a case that the up-tempo offense of Tennessee and their coach, Josh Heupel, helped Hendon Hooker pad stats, that doesn't help him drop dimes on a repeated basis to deep receivers running at full speed and hitting them in stride. That has nothing to do with system. That has everything to do with arm talent. And so I think that the case against Hooker on his knee, not a big deal. On his age, not a big deal. On system, not a big deal. Everything else about Hendon Hooker, to me, says top 10 quarterback.
Staying in the backfield, we here in Tennessee watched in 2019 and 2020 specifically what Derrick Henry did and the workload he absorbed. And since then we've seen Jonathan Taylor and last year Josh Jacobs. In fact, last year there were 3 running backs with more than 300 carries in the NFL, which was the most since 2012. Are teams more open to the idea of a bell cow back again? And is there anybody in this group this year who looks like they could be that kind of running back in the NFL?
Yeah, I think there are 2 guys that you would want in the first round in this running back class. One is from Texas, Bijan Robinson, and the other is Alabama, Jahmyr Gibbs. But I think the hard thing about that for running backs is that the market in free agency for running backs has not broken the bank. I mean, Derrick Henry, what's he making? Was it $10-11 million? It's not a bank breaking position, but it is a position that you need some experience, especially at pass protection, if you're going to be on the field for 3 downs in the NFL. And so I think from a college running back standpoint, they're fighting against the fact that NFL teams can get veteran running backs cheaply that have had years of NFL coaching and years of experience that they can just plug right in, right? Now, the reason that Bijan Robinson is so great is that he makes you miss like nobody else. I mean, it's just about impossible to get a clean hit on Bijan Robinson. He's a game-changing game breaker in a major way. Jahmyr Gibbs of Alabama is a fantastic receiving running back as well as being an outstanding runner, just plain runner. And it's his speed. I mean, he ran a 4.36 40 at 199 pounds. So he's about 200 pounds at 5'9", so he's pretty stout. And he ran faster than most wide receivers. And he was Alabama, if not their leading receiver, one of their top 2 receivers, I think, for most of the season. So, as long as he can pick up a blitz, this is a guy that gives NFL offensive coordinators, and Bijan Robinson done as well, the ability to put him in the backfield or line him up out in the slot or even at wide receiver and create matchup problems. And so both of those guys are worthy first-round picks, in my opinion, because of the matchup nightmares and what they can do with the ball in their hands.
The Titans, too, undeniably need production, playmaking, just bodies at this point at wide receiver. Is this a draft class where second, third round, we've seen big numbers of wide receivers the last couple of years. Is this another year where you can get really good players, a number of them in the second and third round, or will the Titans have to go early if they want to make a big impact at that spot?
No, I don't really like any of these receivers at 11. I really don't. If I were going to get one there, I would think Quentin Johnston, the tall guy, 6'3", about 210, 6'4", out of TCU. Yeah, or Zay Flowers, who's a smaller guy but with tremendous speed, tremendous ability and elusiveness with the ball after the catch out of Boston College. Those 2 guys would be the ones I'd be choosing from, depending on if they want an outside guy, in Johnston or a slot guy in Flowers. But I think you'll be able to bolster that wide receiver room outside of the first round. There's guys that'll be, second, third, fourth round guys. One of them is A.T. Perry out of Wake Forest. He's 6'3", about 200 pounds, runs a 4.47 40, and he was incredibly productive. He's got great arm length, a great catch radius. He's the kind of guy that you can get outside the first round that should be a productive receiver for you right off the bat. And I would suggest this, too. One of the most intriguing players in this draft is Darnell Washington, tight end out of Georgia. He's like, 6'7", 265. He's just massive. He's got natural ability like a wide receiver to get down the field and track the ball and make catches. Although he's a bit raw with his route running. But he's also a fantastic blocker. You watch the combine. They had the tight ends block a one-man sled that was very heavy. And powerful tight ends would hit this thing and have to just give it everything they had to kind of move it backwards. They had to shock it to get it moving at all. Some guys hit it hard and really couldn't get it moving. As much as they tried after the initial hit to drive it, couldn't get much going on. Darnell Washington didn't hit it. He just kind of oozed into it, and I thought, uh-oh, he's in trouble. And then he just walked it back as if it weighed half as much as it did with the other tight ends that tried to move that thing. As a blocker, he has phenomenal ability, and as a receiver, because he's so big and so tall with such skills, he is a phenomenal matchup nightmare. He'll take some time to get refined. But, I wouldn't be surprised if he went in the first round. And if he's there when the Titans pick in the second round, if you want to bolster your receiver core, even though he's a tight end, not a wide receiver. Georgia lined him up out wide, and he did well. I mean, he's a very interesting player that I think would be phenomenal for the Titans because he can block on the edge, and then he can move out wide, and who's going to cover him?
He is Trevor Maddich, and he is the best ESPN college football analyst. Joins us every week, usually at 4:30. I appreciate him moving up today. Trev, good to talk to you, and thanks so much.
Thank you, Trevor.
Thanks, guys.
That is Trevor Maddich joining us here today. A lot of football talk with him. Coming up next, we'll continue the conversation on the quarterbacks and those other three outside of the first two that will likely go 1-2 in the draft. We'll discuss that coming up next here on Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
This is Colton Sissons, and this is Smashville.
Feeds now, Sissons coming on from the left circle, and Colton Sissons puts it in the net.
This is the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network. ESPN 102.5, The Game.
Spring in and style up with huge savings on top athletic brands at your Dick's Sporting Goods warehouse sales store in Franklin. Stay active this spring with up to 70% off the athletic styles you love. Shop deals on thousands of styles from top athletic apparel and footwear brands like $10 tees, tanks, and shorts for the family, $20 swimwear, $20 golf polos, and running footwear for $60 or less. Find incredible deals and incredible style at your Dick's Sporting Goods warehouse sales store in Franklin at Watson Glen.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Teron Davenport here for Superbook Sports. Make 2023 the year you beat Vegas. Superbook Sports gives you the chance every week to go head-to-head with the best odds makers in Las Vegas. No fancy computer algorithms, no guys across the pond setting lines for American sports. Just the best team of odds makers in the business behind the counter at the Superbook in Las Vegas. Plus, Superbook features some of the best odds boosts and promo bets anywhere. So download the Superbook Sports app or visit superbook.com and start your battle against Vegas right now. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789.
Now that you've taken on that big job, you shouldn't have to settle for the big box. You've earned a trip to Northern Tool, and we're ready for the details. We know all about the little things that make the biggest difference. Maybe that's why they call us a problem solver's paradise. From pressure washers to power tools, pallet jacks to push carts, Northern Tool and Equipment carries the brands you depend on, like North Star, DeWalt, Milwaukee, and Strongway. We're made for this. Come see us in store or shop online at northerntool.com.
20 years ago, when Genesis Diamonds came to Nashville, this was one of the most expensive cities in America for diamond jewelry. Our radical approach and no middleman pricing changed that forever. And now we're doing it again, this time with lab-grown diamonds. We were shocked to find out what the other mall stores and the other big radio advertisers were charging. They sell their platinum 4-carat VS2 lab-grown earrings for $15,720. We sell them for $6,900. Their 3.08 carat lab-grown round diamond with G-Color VS2 clarity is $10,045. We sell it for $5,900. Looks like they might be going back to the old ways. If they're charging this much on lab-grown diamonds, kind of makes you wonder what else they're selling at the same outrageous markup. Nashville, we are not going backwards. At Genesis Diamonds, our non-commissioned trusted advisors are here to give you all the information with details you can trust and prices you can count on. Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Subscription required.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 90% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/joy. At Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the biggest brands at 90% off. That's right, get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but 90% cheaper. It's the same medication you get from your doctor, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/joy. That's 4hims.com/joy for your free online visit. FORHIMS.com/JOY.
102.5 and 106.3, The Game is live and local.
And now, let's meet the starting lineups.
Robbie and Rexrode 6 to 9.
You are talking about a team that's building a roster.
Chase and Michelle, 9 to 11.
He's still under contract.
It's not always X's and O's.
Caroline, Willie, and D. Mace, 11 to 2.
Trades, free agents.
Let's get it going. I think this is a good hire.
And Stillman and Company, 2 to 6.
I can give you one of the best coaches in the league.
And don't forget, we're your home for all things Nashville.
He scored!
Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Hey Nashville, this is Penny Hardaway, University of Memphis coach. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Back here, Stillman and Company, Chase McCabe, David Beauclair in today for Jared Stillman, Ian Safar as well. Predators pregame coming up with Max Hers at 5 o'clock as the Predators will take on the Boston Bruins. We'll have Preds game day for you coming up in a few minutes. I do want to pass this along, David, because this is look, it's Tim Corbin, so you know that it's going to be something good when it comes to Tim Corbin. But Vanderbilt baseball is going to donate proceeds from their game against Lipscomb tonight to benefit the Nashville shooting victims. This was a game that was supposed to be last week at First Horizon Park. It got rained out. Tickets so they moved it to the Hawk. Tickets to the game are $5 plus fees. Both teams will also hold a moment of silence prior to the game. But very cool that they're going to donate all the proceeds from Tuesday's game against Lipscomb to the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee to benefit those victims of the Covenant School shooting that announced earlier today. I mean, that's the thing that is great about Nashville. When these unfortunate, tragic events happen, everybody comes together to help everybody. And I know that the Predators are going to be doing stuff. The Titans are going to be doing stuff, and Vandy doing this. So it'll just continue.
And say this: when good things happen in this town too, people get together and celebrate together too. It's become normal to celebrate everybody's successes too. And speaking of success, that Vanderbilt baseball team is a machine right now. They are off and running in the conference season.
Yeah. Oh, they've looked very, very good. And I think what's going to be fun is if you have Tennessee that's good, Vanderbilt that's good. I mean, those series are going to be awesome.
Yeah, Tennessee got back on track this week after a rough opening weekend, and after the way that series went last year, I know Vanderbilt will be looking forward to a better showing, but they've got some things to do before they get there, obviously. But it's fun. This feels like it should be a good baseball state anyway, and to have both those teams just elite right now is really something.
Well, and it's funny. I don't know how much you look at this, but as somebody that I've said this before, my first sporting events were on the campus of Vanderbilt. My dad would take me to football games, to basketball games, and so I kind of grew up with that. And obviously Tennessee in the 90s with Peyton Manning, they were really good. The fact that now that you have Vandy beating Tennessee in basketball when Tennessee was looked at to be one of the best teams in the country, you have the football team that Clark Lee's showing that. Let's see.
It's going to take a while.
It's going to take a while, but they showed signs of improvement last year. Obviously, Tennessee took a huge leap, and then the baseball programs being so close together. I mean, I hope for a day where the big three, and then you throw women's basketball in there too, with Tennessee kind of on the comeback, and hopefully Vandy can do the same. I think it's great to have that rivalry actually mean something.
It was funny to me last year, though. I mean, Tennessee clearly had the better team than Vanderbilt last year. They were better than pretty much everybody else. Tennessee fans get so giddy so fast when things are going well that when Tennessee swept Vanderbilt last year, you got this overwhelming sense that they thought that it meant that they now had the better program.
Hang on.
Easy. Now you've got a long way to go before your program Tony Vitello's program measures up to Tim Corbin's program. We'll put it that way. But this is a new season, and I would suspect those will be really compelling, emotional
Tough
contests.
ticket.
It'll be a tough ticket, that's for sure.
Well,
good point.
And the fun, I think the fun thing about it is you got Tim Corbin, who is, just very stoic and laid back and just, he's Corbs. That's what he is. And then, on the other side, Tony Vitello is kind of this, a little bit of a rebel and, just kind of has a little edge, cockiness to him. And so two very different coaches.
Well, this is where I struggle with Vitello, because I'm a big believer as a coach, you have to be authentic to who you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, I don't think there's any question that Tony Vitello is an emotional guy at all times. And I think he's happier and he's better when he's worked up and angry about something. And his team really bought into that last year. Like they, but I almost wonder if he had them on too much of an emotional edge for too long, that when they got into the NCAAs, they couldn't go up. They couldn't ratchet it up. In fact, they were probably emotionally weary at that point, because they every game it felt like they found something that they felt disrespected about, or something to get them angry and worked up about. And I wonder if Vitello has thought about that and has thought maybe if he should dial it down. And then, it was the first or second weekend of college baseball, and they were playing. I don't remember who they were playing, but I flipped to one of their games, and literally, like within 30 seconds of me turning on the TV, they showed the Tennessee dugout, and guys were chirping and carrying on. I'm like, no, I guess it's going to be more of the same this year. We'll see if they can carry it through and carry it a little farther this year. I
think the thing that and I always go back to this with a team that has a lot of talent and they're picked to do a lot of good things and win, and then they don't. I always look at, okay, the next year is probably the year, because they learn, they've learned from it. They've learned what losing means and feels like, and they don't like that. And you have to learn how to win. I remember, the Kansas City Chiefs, when they lost to Brady in the AFC title game and the Patriots, and then the next year is when they finally got over that hump. I wonder if some of that was last year for Tennessee, and that tasting that defeat and what that felt like, that'll give them that. Now they're going to have to face a much better Vanderbilt team, as we were just talking about. But if that gives them that edge to try and go for it all.
Yeah, as we saw with the Preds in 2017, for example, and with Vanderbilt in 2014, some of it's timing too. Some of it is when you sort of hit your stride. And Tennessee was so good for so long last year. Similar to, like I say, with the emotions, like maybe they just couldn't maintain that. Like people were talking about them. Remember at a certain point during the regular season, they were talking about them as maybe the best college baseball team ever, and then it was really like, right. Oh, you got a lot to account. Vanderbilt went through that in 2006, I guess, the David Price year, where they were just beating the doors off of everybody, and then you get into those tough, pressure-packed moments that you hadn't faced much during the year, and it becomes a whole lot harder than if you had. And that's what's interesting about Vanderbilt right now, is they played such a ridiculous non-conference schedule that this has to be the first time that conference play has ever felt easier to them.
Yeah,
or probably. How many SEC baseball teams have ever said that? But that's certainly the way it looks like what's playing out for Vanderbilt right now, and we'll see how it goes from here.
So again, if you're looking for something to do tonight, 6 o'clock is when first pitch will be at the Hawkins Field on the campus of Vanderbilt. Vandy and Lipscomb tonight. $5 tickets, and all proceeds are going to go to the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee to benefit the victims of the Covenant school shooting. So that very cool thing that Vandy and Lipscomb are doing tonight, and you can go check that out a little over an hour from now. Coming up next, it's Predators game day. We'll get you set for the Preds and the Bruins. That is up next here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
The college football season never stops. ESPN college football analyst Trevor Manich joins Stillman and Company every Tuesday at 4:30.
They've got to do what Nick Saban in Alabama has done so successfully over the last 10 years.
Presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Professional quilt maker Dana Balliard once said, "There are no rules in quilting, and if you think that there are, then it's time you try breaking a few." Now, I like that type of creative entrepreneurial spirit, and that's why I do my adult beverage trading at Red Spirits and Wine. It's not just a great selection of distilled spirits, single-barrel Red Select whiskeys, great wines from around the world, and awesome craft beers, but it's more the way the folks at Red just go about their business. At Red, they keep it interesting and fun. The Cracker Jack crew makes you feel welcome after a hard day on the trail, never coming off like some of them snooty-nosed, big-talking whoop-de-doos. At Red, it's always square dealing with the best in service, selection, and prices. Plus, Red is locally owned by real folks, not some totally faceless corporation. There's no doubt in my mind, Red is my kind of place. Red Spirits and Wine, Highway 70 South and Old Hickory Boulevard. Check them out on Facebook, Instagram, and at redspirits.com.
We do screen printing.
Music City Screen Prints.
We do embroidery.
Music City Screen Prints.
We do large format printing.
Music City Screen Prints.
We do promotional goods.
Music City Screen Prints.
We do graphic design.
Music City Screen Prints.
mcscreenprints.com. That's mcscreenprints with an S.com. 615-866-6010.
You think it, we print it.
This week's Nashville's best deal is the all-new Hot Works Goodlettsville off Long Hollow Pike. Right now, join for just $39 in time for their grand opening April 1st. That's $60 off at thegamenashville.com/deals. Hot Works offers 24/7 infrared fitness in 15 and 30-minute virtually led sauna sessions. Get more workout in less time at Hot Works. And right now, save $60 on enrollment at thegamenashville.com/deals.
312 Pizza Company is a proud sponsor of Nashville Sounds Baseball on 102.5 The Game.
Hey, Joe Rexrode here for FanDuel. The tournament heating up, folks, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now FanDuel is giving new customers a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That is $1,000 in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. All you got to do is go to FanDuel.com/Joe102. Sign up today to claim your no-sweat first bet. Then you can wager on everything from the money line, point spreads, which teams will be cutting down the nets, and of course we're down to 4, so we're getting close here, and we got a shocking Final Four. I will tell you right now, I think I like San Diego State, and I think I like UConn to be the two teams that meet each other in the national championship game. Do whatever you want. Just do it on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Do not miss your shot at no sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Go to FanDuel.com/Joe102. Make every moment more with FanDuel. You must be 21 or older, present in Tennessee. First online real wager only, $10 deposit required. Refund issued is now withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line 800-889-9789.
The sports talk doesn't end on Friday. Join Michelle Knezovic and Junnie Riddle for Michelle and Junie.
As long as he wants to coach there, he will be able to coach there.
I think that really did save the hope of this team.
Michelle and Junie, presented by Superbook Sports, every Saturday morning at 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. It's Hockey Night in Smashville.
Deflects back for Duchesne. His shot stopped, and the score!
What are the keys to victory tonight? What's being said in the locker room? Where do the Preds reside in the Central Division standings? Jared Stillman has the latest now. With Preds Game Day on Stillman and Company. This is Smashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Back here at Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Chase McCabe, David Beauclair in for Jared Stillman today. Predators and Bruins coming up with pregame in less than 15 minutes. Max Hers will take over then. And They will take on the best team in the National Hockey League, as it's not even a contest anymore with the Boston Bruins. I mean, they're fun to watch. And the East is fun to watch, but they have wrapped up their division. They've wrapped up the President's Trophy, 119 points on the year, and so they're just cruising, waiting for the playoffs. But it's going to be a tough one to get out of the East, because you got Carolina that's good, New Jersey that's good, Rangers, Toronto.
Never want to count out Tampa Bay.
Never want to count out Tampa Bay. So that is what the Predators are faced with tonight. They find themselves, you guessed it, 5 points out of a playoff spot, where they have been really since the trade deadline. It's been right around then. Just kind of in purgatory there. Can't seem to gain any ground on the teams in front of them. Winnipeg in that second wild card spot, which at this point is the most reachable spot for the Predators. And Calgary is ahead of them by 1 point, so they got to leapfrog Calgary and get to Winnipeg. In the Central Division, Minnesota has vaulted to the top at 95 points, but Colorado is behind them with 94, 9-1-0 in their last 10 for Colorado. They're coming.
Yeah, I mean, you knew once McDavid got healthy, and it just felt like that was a team that was just sitting on simmer for a long time, and it's rare that teams, especially professional sports teams, can sort of flip the switch and say, okay, now let's go. But that kind of feels like what they have done this year.
Predators Game Day is presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. Visit tjandersonhomes.com to see why they are referred so often. So the Predators and Bruins tonight. Here's head coach John Hines and his take on the Bruins.
Excellent goaltending. They have a really big, strong mobile decor. If you look at their depth up front, they have a lot of things that you need to be a really strong team. They got high-end talent. They got their best players play the right way. And then I think you look at their depth up front. They've got good size. They got offense on every line. They can bring some physicality. So, they're a very complete team. And, more often than not, they're bringing their A game consistently.
And that's what the Predators are going to have to face tonight.
And they brought their A game to Nashville back last month. On the 16th, I think it was. 5-0, and it wasn't. I mean, I thought the score was closer than the game was in that one. The Preds are going to have to show a little more than they showed that night, and only 4 points in their last 7 games. So it's they're not exactly surging. It's funny. The narrative is sort of like there's a lot to like about this team. There's a lot to like about how a lot of these young guys are playing. Luke Evangelista looks really exciting. Philip Tomasino looks like a different player than he was in training camp and the preseason and so on down the line. But the results aren't there right now, and maybe it's because they're more an AHL team than they are an NHL team right now. But it's fun to talk about the playoffs and all, and the fact that they're still in the chase, but 4 points in 7 games isn't going to get it done. You're going to have to win some games. You're going to have to win some games against some good teams, unlike Boston that still have a lot to play for here down the stretch too. So, we said this is a real chance to evaluate guys in a situation that you don't normally get like this, and we'll keep an eye on who looks good over this last little stretch here.
Predators are 4-8-3 all time at the TD Garden. This is kind of funny. I just noticed this and looking at the game notes. The Predators' record at Bridgestone Arena is 18-14-4, and their record away from Bridgestone Arena is 18-14-4. So that's where they are.
Give them credit for consistency. That's I guess there's something to be said for that.
But looks like no Matt Duchene, no Roman Josi, no Philip Forsberg. No Ryan Johansson, obviously. That's just what they're faced with right now. No Juuso Parssinen, he continues to be out for them. And when David Poile was on Robbie and Rexrode earlier today, he basically said that Yossi's on the trip, but probably won't play at Pittsburgh. That's where they're at. It doesn't look like they're close to getting these guys back.
And again, I guess. That doesn't bother me. I guess
it doesn't bother
okay
me.
With there's no need to rush these guys back in, because I mean if the Predators brass are being honest with themselves, even with those guys, if they all get healthy before the end of the season and they get in, and this team gets in the playoffs, this does not look like, and at no point this season has this team looked like a team that's going to go on a big playoff run and win the Stanley Cup. So I think you ride with the young kids and say, get a feel for this. Understand what it is to play hockey in the NHL at this time of year. Understand, on April 8th when you go to Winnipeg, what that's going to be like, what the energy in the building is going to be like, what the Jets are going to be playing for, and how meaningful that game is going to be for them against you. And Calgary 2 nights later, the same thing. I mean, these are moments that you can sort of sock away and can be valuable to you in future seasons, provided most of these guys stick around for a while, and certainly the Predators' history suggests that a lot of these guys are going to stick around for a while. They don't, you don't see the massive roster upheaval from year to year with this bunch.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that we're getting this first look at what is being molded into the new core. We for so long with that run in 2017, and then after, we talked about that core group of players. Well, now the core is being reset, and Yossi and Forsberg are some holdovers. Saros is obviously a part of that.
Sort of a bridge to that.
Yeah, Pekka is gone and has a statue now, so which is obviously really cool. But seeing what and I think that's the other thing with the goalies. You got Saros that's playing well now. Askarov is in the pipeline. What does that look like? It's going to be a fun little ride. But they got to take on Boston tonight. David, thanks so much for doing this today.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Chase.
Yeah, absolutely. Stick around, though. Max Hers is coming up next with Predators pregame as they will take on the Boston Bruins. We're back at it tomorrow here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game.